G'day, hi, and welcome. All right, TGIF, toes going first. Also, thank God it's Friday. No mice today. Uh, they did catch something at the store. They caught two mice in that big rat trap that I gave them. Yeah. So I didn't see Marvin today. It's quite blustery out there today. Hey, what's wrong? Oh, there we go. Okay, got stuff to cover. Uh, I took my spy game up home last night. My nephew came home from school. I was like, gotta play a game on Friday. After supper, we got full bellies. We're gonna get some spies. Don't know. Yeah, so he's like, okay. So he's all excited about that. He's been taking his ukulele to school, the one I bought him, and they're teaching him music at school. That's what. It's like I'm so happy because if he gets really going good on the ukulele, what I'm hoping is that he stays interested enough that so when he gets a little bit bigger, he'll start playing the guitar and the bass and so on. Every kid should be in music. If every kid played music, we'd probably have no war. Just really, really good concerts. Like concert wars. That's what we'd have. Instead of the stupid stuff that we got to deal with now. Yeah, there's that. I got, because it's Friday, got a little bit of disarong in there. Stuff's pretty good. I just put like half a finger in there, mix it with some Pepsi. Almost tastes like a cherry Coke, to be honest with you. Very, very, very good stuff. Um, Check it out. They're 2.75s. 3.25s. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think these are that strong. That's what they're marked as, but they just don't feel that strong. Dirty or what? You mean my dollar store glasses are like dirty already? Okay. You can laugh at me in my spaz glasses, but it's either these or the granny glasses. So okay, let's World War Three to update this sucker. Okay, Ukraine basically 10 guys versus 1,500 British destroyed in Hedgehog 2025. They finally released the outcome of that. Okay, something I said about the Ukrainians right from day one, and I said you say this about every word basically, is that everybody's the Ukrainians they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, so the first 6 months is like almost every war is the same. The first 6 months is just like complete catastrophic losses. Why? Because nobody knows how to fight properly on a modern battlefield of their time, right? Because like your first plan doesn't survive, never seems to survive contact, right? It never works. But anyway, they were using NATO. Like the Ukrainians have been bitching about this for a while. Is like because they're in the trench warfare, the drone warfare, but they basically had 10 drone operators, and like they couldn't even get the thing started without wiping out like you know everybody. Like it was just like they wiped out like 1,500 guys in like within 2 days. They were wiping out like tanks. They destroyed something like 30 tanks, whatever. Why? These are guys that are really experienced at doing it in the real world, right? So NATO training is absolutely obsolete. It's World War II training. Yes, it looks cool to see 30 guys behind an Abrams tank, but if I'm a drone operator, that's like the nicest thing to see. Why? Because you can still aim for the tank, just hit it at the rear, and you'll get the guys too, right? So, you know what I mean? You can't bunch people together like they used to. You can't have people walking through the fields, even if they're spread out. You know what I mean? Like it's that's that. You can't fight like that anymore. Like you're gonna have to go slow through the bush, through the tree line. Stay concealed as much as possible. What is showing is that lightweight shoulder fired weapons, which used to be that effective, are now the way to go. Like the drone operator is the modern battlefield. Until they can jam every drone, whether it's wire guided or remote guided, like until they can do that, and then once they do that, then that'll probably be about the same time that cruise missiles and everything become obsolete. And then you're back to like B1, B2 rockets of World War II, which is kind of what the Iranians are technically using, just like hyper advanced Scud launchers. That's what they're doing, right? And the thing about that is that, like, we're not prepared for that. Like, we're still thinking World War II, fighter jets and battleships. Like, who the fuck is gonna, you know how fast a battleship is going to get sunk on, on a modern battlefield? Like, yeah, Douglas MacArthur, he was saying something. I listen to him every now and then. I don't agree with him on everything. Like, you know, like for example, guy that's really good is History Legends. I think he's really, like, people get mad at him when he tells you stuff you don't want to hear, right? But he's like, look, no, the Russians are basically and the Ukrainians are killing each other almost 1-to-1 now. The Russians had a huge lead, but now they're in the grind, right? And this kind of shows that, yeah, that's what happens. Yes, Russia had super advantageous in the beginning because they had all this stuff, right? But once the guys start getting, no, like changing their tactics, it's the same thing when we went from like standing in a, colonials type wars to guerrilla warfare, right? Like asymmetrical warfare, where it's like, okay, you mean the guys are going to shoot at the lines from the side? Fuck, we weren't ready for that. You know what I mean? You get slaughtered. Well, that's kind of what happened in Ukraine. So, like I said, Ukraine might still pull a rabbit out of its hat and win the war. I mean, it's a long shot, or at best they'll get to like just a okay stalemate. We just can't go any further, And I think like the Russians, a lot of people say, why isn't Putin just crushing the Ukrainians and getting it over with? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, war makes money. Number two, you get to find out whether your tactics work. Number three, maybe the other guy has something to say about it. And that's what's slowing the Russians down is the actual Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians, where we dismissed their army a lot, I didn't never dismissed their army. I said yes, they were taking heavy losses and they were losing. There's a slight advantage to the Russians right now, and it goes up and it goes down. So everybody always play like the guy they choose, like, okay, Russia's losses are minimal and Ukraine's lot, like Russia's basically won the war. They might as well just give up. And I've, in the beginning, guilty, said, it's like, well, the Ukrainians are just going to get slaughtered, right? But it turns around like what's working best for the Ukrainians, okay, is their own battlefield knowledge. That's what's working best for them, not the NATO stuff. The NATO stuff doesn't work. It doesn't, like, the drones are a massive, massive, massive problem. It's the most effective weapon ever fielded, bar none. Like, like the atomic bomb hasn't killed as many people as drones. Drones are the most effective weapon we've ever fielded. They're nightmarish. Like, you watch the drone footage of guys getting killed by these things, it's completely heartless. It's the like the psychology of the people that drive the drones. Like, it's like have you ever talked to like people that go through sniper school? Okay, and then after they go in theater and they've actually made a couple of kills, like they're not the same after that. Like they don't like Charles Hathcock. Just go listen to that guy talk. Like, yeah, he's like that's trauma. That's what trauma looks like. They sort of get off on it, but they sort of don't. Like it's morbid. It's really morbid, right? The drone operators, it's the same thing. It's extremely morbid. You're killing people. Even you're killing people that you hate, sure, because they've invaded your country. But your conscience is saying, yeah, you're killing another human being, though. The most disgraceful way you can kill them. You know what I mean? Just a little side note. If you want uneasy, okay, a little side note. This book, I'm about that far away. Vultures, freaking vultures. That was very uneasy to read. Very uneasy to read. And again, it's like that's what this is showing. But it's the same thing like when they gained a war against Iran. They've lost every time. And now in the real world, you're seeing, okay, the scenario that they ran was like basically running the warships, these invincible warships, which are just goddamn big targets. Like they're just huge, right? Like an aircraft carrier. It's like it's 3 fucking football fields. How do you miss that? You can't, Like, yeah. You can hit it on a rock or something. I don't know. Right? So again, the Iranians haven't sunk the aircraft carriers. Not because I don't think they can. It's just they're doing other. I think they're, like, if you think about it, if you sunk the aircraft carriers, two things happen: a rally around a flag, and then they have to kill half of America trying to get revenge. But they're going to win anyway. It doesn't matter. They already know this. They already know they're going to win. And by winning, I don't mean they're not going to take losses. You don't technically win wars. It's how much losses does one take before they give up. That's the best way to look at war. Like all these cheerleaders you see on Fox News and all that, telling people that they got to go die for Israel and fuck them. And these people never fight. These people never fight. Their kids never have to fight. It's all these, but they're thinking about their investments. They're fucking screwed in the head. But the thing is that no, the Iranians are they're ruling the roost here. Yes, they're taking massive hits, but you're noticing that the airstrikes. Everybody notices when the Iranians slacken off on the rockets a bit. Okay, you had Trump out there yesterday say again, their air force is done, their navy's done, they've got barely any rockets left. And last night I think it was like the largest. It was like a 3-wave barrage. I think they were at barrage. I had it here somewhere. It was like barrage 62, 63, 64, whatever they're at, right? And they hit freaking Jerusalem. They've been mainly focusing on Tel Aviv, but they've been hitting Jerusalem like crazy last night. Blowing trains off the tracks, you name it. Like we see all these trains all fucking dilapidated off the tracks, right? But nobody died. Like everything's just sitting there empty. Nobody's dying, right? Yeah. I can imagine that train was in fucking probably full of people. Probably had hundreds killed. We're not going to know the damage. No one's going to tell us the truth on that. I believe the body counts, at least of the civilians, have got to be in the tens of thousands. Across the Middle East. Like it's this idea that everybody, you can get 7 to 9 million people in their fucking bunkers 3 times a day. No. Now keep in mind, like the Iranians are mainly going after military targets, but they are hitting civilian infrastructure such as train stations. You take out these train stations in Israel, that is a bad fucking scene for Israel. Like now, how do you move shit? You know what I mean? Hezbollah is knocking out like armor. Moving armor from one side of the country to the other, even if it's not a big country, is like trains are a major part of that. The train that looked like it was hit looked more like a passenger train. I don't know if Israel has high speed. I don't think they do. They might. If you guys know, let me know. But again, just knocking those trains off the track, like it'll take you a month just to get those fucking trains off the track, right? Get them out of the ditches and stuff like that. That's a massive loss. What's a train worth? With 30 cars. You know what I mean? 20 cars or 25 cars, whatever it is, hooked to it. Like that, what's $1 billion? I think the first 2 weeks was something like 50 billion lost just on the U.S. side, not to mention all the other stuff. Like I say, the gas, the oil, the fertilizer. Like, guys, it's going to be months before we see the full effects of it, but it's going to hit fast. So stock up. Whatever's on the shelf right now is on sale. We're going into the biggest depression we've ever seen in human history. This is like uncharted territory at this point. Taking like 20% of the world's oil supply off the markets is just absolutely the insanity. Like Southeast Asia is already suffering from it. Like they're like, we can't make anything right now. That's why you want a nationalist running your country. No, we're going to make the shit here. Carney's sort of doing that. Okay, there's a lot of things, again, people complaining, there's a lot to complain about Carney, like with the Bill C-9 coming up, more hate speech laws, and, gray area, and the, human rights tribunals. I'm sure they'll go after everybody that's, anti-Israel, whatever. Okay, fine, whatever. Yes, we gotta fight that fight too. But right now, everybody's in an existential crisis and they don't realize it. And anybody that doesn't, that's still like, well, I don't care about politics. I'm just going to go watch my football game or hockey game or the FIFA World Cup coming up, the soccer or whatever. Whenever that comes up. Yeah, sure, go enjoy that stuff, but have your home prepared. Especially you poor bastards in the city. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean us people in the country are not going to be like. If you ever saw the movie Mad Max and the explanation of what happened to the world in Mad Max, basically they said the oil basically ran out in 2022 in an Arab conflict. We're 2026. Was this not all planned? You know what I mean? Like Hollywood, again, some of it's just like broken clocks. Lucky guess. Like, look, when I'm writing my book 2060 Dystopia, I'm writing it based upon a lot of stuff that's happening now and where it's most likely going to lead. So there's probably a good chance when people read my book in the year 2060, like, this guy was a fucking clairvoyant. No, it's just, like 2 plus 2 is going to equal 4. So there's a lot of that. But, like, for example, the Ode Yeon plan from 1984, 1986, it is now being discussed after being called a Nazi, a racist, a bigot, an anti-Semite, and conspiracy theory that was just tropes. It's anti-Jewish, blah, blah. And here they are discussing it openly on the mainstream media. Vindicated again, like conspiracy theorists vindicated again. Yeah, nobody goes to jail, right? But yeah, so the Ukrainian drill is telling us that the World War II era, like, the United States has the best World War II model military ever built, right? But it's useless on a modern battlefield. Like Trump going on about taking out the Iranian Air Force. It doesn't matter. They're relying on the rocket. It's the rockets and the drones that are your problem, not the Iranian Air Force. Oh, we took out their Navy. Their navies, half the ships were taken out in port. Why? They're probably still functionable ships. Some of them probably not. Like I say, when you watch the footage of the stuff getting destroyed, like, oh, you see some F-14 Tomcats getting destroyed? Yeah, most of those are sitting on the ground cannibalized for parts. They don't use them. Yes, they'll use them, like they will use their F-4 Phantoms and stuff like that once the skies are cleared, right? But they're not going to use them right away. Why? Number one, they probably have oil reserves underground, but probably not as much as you'd think. So that's going to be like the last card played when they want to drop the really heavy bombs over specific targets. But they kind of don't need to waste all that training on a pilot when it's easier to build a rocket, manufacture, train people to build rockets and drones. And we don't know how fast they're truly replenishing this. According to the Iranians, that they're saying that they're replacing the drones faster than they're using them. And they're doing 3 barrages a day. Right? And every time they take out a radar station, they took out another THAAD launcher yesterday, the night before, whatever. You take out the radar, you take out the launcher, the radar, or the tracking and the guidance system or whatever, targeting system. It doesn't matter. It's a triad. You take out one, the system doesn't work. If you don't have the radar, you really can't function the other two because you won't see what's coming in at you. You won't be able to track it. If you don't have the guidance system, well, you can't lock onto it and shoot it down. If you don't have the launcher, it doesn't matter if you see it coming in. You watch it long enough to kiss your ass goodbye. That's about it, right? So yeah, the long range radar systems are now kind of confirmed down. I said watch for this. Watch for aircraft getting shot down. It means that they have to get in closer. So this tells me, even unconfirmed, that the 4 AWACS that were taken out were probably taking out. Why? Because of that F-35. We'll get into that after that got shot down over Iran. Well, it didn't get shot down. It got hit. It made it back. Apparently, it landed. I want to say it landed in Oman, but it might have landed in Qatar. In one of the two, anyway. It limped its way back. Now, was it right over Tehran? Probably not, because the F-35 does fire cruise missiles. But when you see the air defense system that shot it down, they say like it was shot down by an Iranian munition, so they don't know exactly what hit it. Could have been a shoulder fire weapon. I doubt it was, because it looks like you got footage of it. Now, everybody, but we got stealth aircraft. Yeah, but stealth is pointless against thermals. That aircraft is glowing hot, right? Just from flying through the air, Like the aircraft might be like 80, 100 degrees just flying through the air. That'll stand out on radar or on thermals. You lock onto it. Again, this whole stealth thing is you're about to find out that the most expensive weapon system in human history, the F-35, is obsolete. It was a make work project. It probably got hit by like a $20,000 missile, or even like a $10,000 missile. It's really, the stealth thing is like, it's not invisible to radar. It does well against X-band radar, but like low frequency radar, it can get picked up by that. It's just low frequency radar is not good for honing in, but it'll tell you something's in the area. A stealth is in the area. So it takes a while to triangulate the data to figure out how to shoot these things down. But if you're close to it and they can use thermal imaging, they'll use the thermals and they'll get it every time. Why? Because again, you got that 1600-degree blowhole at the back. Doesn't matter what jet it is, right? The only one that masks its the heat signature is the F-117 and the B-2. They're the only ones that really mask that. And even at that, you would, like a heat-seeking missile would hit that. Thermal imaging would find it. It's just that's how it got shot down before. The F-117 got shot down with like 1970s technology, the 60s, 70s technology, which was the S-200 system. They were able to shoot it down because they were able to figure out the temperature difference in the sky, and they basically shot at the hole in the sky, and where they shot at where the sky wasn't. We'll just say they didn't lock onto the aircraft; they just honed the missile into where the sky wasn't. So tricky. It took them, I think, 3 missiles, but they knocked out a $100 million aircraft in 3 tries. So if that's what they were able to do in the Balkans in the 1990s, imagine what the Iranians can do now. The U.S. does not have the air supremacy. Trump, we're flying our airplanes all over Iran. They're not even shooting at us. And then an hour later, F-35 hit, right? So chances are they can hit an F-35 in the sky, okay? And they hit it with 1 missile. There wasn't 3 missiles coming up, but they hit it with 1 missile. It could be a mad pad launcher. It could be, like mad pad launchers are usually not that sophisticated. But if you're at the right altitude, it'll get you. You know what I mean? The big one is that if they can hit the most advanced aircraft in the sky, then it is fully believable that 7 other F-35s were destroyed on the ground, which means there's now 8 F-35s out of the fight. So you have 8 F-35s out of the fight, 9 tankers out of the fight, and we're like week 3, right? That's a huge, out of the 64 tankers out there. We have an aircraft carrier out of the fight with questionable why. I talked about it yesterday, is it sabotage? Did they take a missile hit? And just like saying, oh no, it was a laundry room fire that took 3 days like a laundry room fire that takes 3 days to fucking shut, to stop. Yeah, something's burning in your ship for 3 days. You're going to be fucking getting out of that ship. Yeah, you've got a problem with that ship. At last count, it was 11 Q9 Predator drones. I'm sure it's way higher than that now. But this is also the other thing. When those drones get knocked out, then the aircraft have to get closer, right? When your AWACS get knocked out, your aircraft have to get closer, right? When your early warning radars get knocked out, your aircraft carriers have to come in closer. So, and when you lose your air tankers, okay, you have to bring in the aircraft carriers closer. This is exactly what Iran wants. Like, they don't have to bring the aircraft carrier groups right to the Strait of Hormuz. They only have to get them within, unmissable range, which is about half of where they're at. But I'm like, I think it'll be another month before they take out the aircraft carriers. And I'll tell you why. Because I think the Iranians want the war to last a little bit longer. Look, you've got Trump out there, Netanyahu out there, if he's still alive, you're seeing, you're starting to see press conferences from the guy, but is he alive? Is he not alive? I don't know. Okay, you got different reportings of, like there's 5,000 people on the USS Tripoli. There's 2,200. There's 5,000. More troops going. They're going to land on Carg Island. They're not going to land on but now it looks like they're going to land these fucking troops on Carg Island. Because here's the argument now, and of course everybody runs with the argument as soon as they hear it. They're like, yeah, but it's not boots on the ground because it's not mainland Iran. I'm like, it's Iranian territory. That's fucking boots on the ground. That's like you would have but you hear people that, well, it's okay, I'm going to be safe because it's not truly boots on the ground. The semantics you're arguing over is, am I going to fire the missile on my own territory, or am I going to fire the missile across the Gulf? That's what you're arguing about. You know what I mean? Like no, you land fucking soldiers there, they're going to be fucking vaporized. And I don't even think it's going to be rockets. It's going to be again. Let's go back to Hedgehog here. Yeah, that is crazy. Because if you land those, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to spread them. Either the artillery is going to get them, or the drones are going to get them. And then, there's just the fact that there might be the Iranian military sitting there waiting for you. You remember the ambassador, he's like, yeah, bring them, we're waiting for you. The guy on Fox News, he was kind of again, it's that arrogance that they have, right? We're unbeatable, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, we've planned for it. We're waiting for you to land. Please do. It's like you have the Iranian generals out there, when Donald Trump's being tough guy. And again, when he says these things, it makes the U.S. look so bad, right? George Bush was bad, don't get me wrong. But he wasn't, as stupid as George Bush was. He knew not to do hyperbolics because it makes you look weak and it makes you look bad when you can't follow through. Yeah, we're going to put a warship in Escrew because that'll scare the Iranians. The Iranians are clearly not scared of the U.S. That should be obvious now. You might say, oh yeah, but we're going to wipe you out. And again, you got people out there, yeah, we've hit 16,000 targets. You've only hit a few hundred of ours. Yeah, but look at the economic difference in damage. Okay, you've hit a couple of old launchers, a couple of, you hit a C-130 sitting on the ground that was probably parked there for 20 years waiting for parts, 30 years waiting, again, because of the sanctions. Right? They don't need it. You're blowing up shit they don't need. You hit a girls' school that was formerly you're blowing up buildings, right? These buildings aren't worth, how many buildings per, $30 million for a Q9 Reaper, right? How many buildings can you blow up in Iran for $30 million before you have the equivalent? You know what I mean? Now, times that by 11, 330 million, okay? You just shot, they just damaged, or I'm sure this aircraft, even if it made it back home, is out of the fight for the rest of the war. It's now a parts airplane, right? So there's 100 million, 90 to 100 million bucks gone. God knows what, the true cost of an F-35. Could be it's 200 million an airplane, for its life cycle or something. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. So, I'm thinking what we saw with 10 Ukrainian guys taking out 1,500 British trainees, in Operation Hedgehog. Yeah, I think you're about to see that in real time against the U.S. Marines. Up here in Montreal. Oh, yes, and the F-35 is confirmed by U.S. Central Command. Okay? So, yeah, it did make it to safety, but it did get hit. So, chances are it got hit by a lighter missile, obviously. Montreal, CF-18s. Okay, yeah, Canadian CF-18s. Everybody says the same thing. This would be a perfect opportunity for the assault gripping. Why would you set up an F-35 for that, right? So they sent up two I don't have all the details. You'll have to go look into it. But yes, there's like all these little terrorist attacks that are happening all over the place. You got mosques, or um, synagogues getting shot at, Jewish people being attacked everywhere. It's the 110th expulsion of the Jews during the 10th Crusade. I told you guys that. I've been telling you guys this was coming for like over a decade, right? And I said it would happen this way. And again, it's like, like everybody expects it to all explode in one Mad Max kind of big fucking grandiose thing. It's always incremental. It's like frog boiling in the pot, right? You don't see it coming. Like if you were to take somebody out of 1992, okay, or 1994, like my book 2060 Dystopia, starts in 1994 with me riding on my panhead chopper in the beautiful sunset with my ex-girlfriend on the back. Like the most bliss day I could possibly. It's like, oh, it was such a just everything was so perfect. We went for ice cream. It was just like a perfect world, right? And if you were to go in a coma then and wake up right now, you'd die of fright. Between the fucking LGBTQ tranny thing and the hate speech laws and the fucking Zionist crazy fucking war hawks, yeah, you'd fucking just die of shock. But yeah, so we had two CF-18s escort an airliner into Montreal airport there. So again, keep your head on the swivel wherever we go. But yeah, the F-35. I guess I talked about it enough. Fort Menard. Anyway, Hegseth and Rubio is kind of like home base. Again, we're getting all these reports of these drones surveilling, like like the B-52s. This year's like an army base, whatever. That Hegseth and Rubio, like it's a command center for them. Look, the Iranians are probably working out American targets, which suggests to me that they have one of two things: either sleeper cells, which is the most likely, or B, they have intercontinental capability. Like that's scarier. If they do, even if it's a conventional if it's conventional rockets, that's one thing. But if they can build an intercontinental rocket, they have nuclear weapons. It's as simple as that. So it sounds like somebody's mapping. Now, mind you, this could be the CIA getting ready to, or the Mossad or whatever, getting ready to do some false flags. We don't know. If you're on a military base anywhere in the world, keep your head on the swivel because you're probably going to get killed because of these idiots. Trump got mad at Bibi because Trump hit. Sort of matter. Bad with the names. Anyway, it's the largest oil field natural gas refinery. It supplies 8% of the world's natural gas. Okay, in Iran, they have the largest natural gas refinery in the world. I didn't know this. Now we do. Well, they had. They had. The Israelis hit it. Trump was like, "Don't ever fucking do that again." Why? Because it's too late. This guarantees starvation in all of Africa. It's 100% now. There's no stopping it. And probably food shortages all around the world. Because 8% of that natural gas, a lot of that is used to refine fertilizer. And 50% of the world's fertilizer comes from that region of the world. Yeah. Guys, back in 2020, I told you 2 to 4 billion people were about to starve to death. When Trump took office, I revised it that 4 to 6 billion people are about to starve to death. Don't be one of them. Stock up. Come up with a plan to replenish your food. Yes, it's harder for you guys in the city. What I would recommend for people in the city, okay, is canning. Go buy, even if can't can, you get jars and oxygen absorbers. Bags of rice. Just go fucking buy. I don't like rice. Yeah, but you're gonna like starving less or more. You know what I mean? You're gonna like rice more than you hate starving. You're gonna hate starving. Okay, get some fucking rice. If you're poor, beggars ain't gonna be choosers. Okay, learn your local plant life. Find out what you can actually harvest during different times of season. Get yourself a fishing license. Go somewhere where even if you catch like the smallest fish, find out what your legal quota is. Go get your fishing license. Don't catch your fish in the Ottawa River. Don't eat those. Go find some clean areas. Even if you have to take a bus there or whatever, bring a cooler with you. Bring back a fish. Stockpile your fish. You can't keep fish for a long time, but you can keep them long enough. You know what I mean? Get some canning and packaging stuff. Buy the stuff in the grocery store now. Get yourself a seed vault. Seeds don't last forever either. You gotta be able to do this stuff. Look at community gardens, rooftop gardens, backyard gardens, all that kind of stuff. You're most likely not going to have enough food yield to supplement or or feed everybody, but at least it's a supplement. Have some tomatoes and maybe some broccoli to go with the rice or something. You know what I mean? But start prepping. If you're allowed to have a chicken or two, get a chicken or two. Again, I don't know what the people in the city are going to do because, it's like these fucking monsters, and it's all done on purpose. Trust me, the globalists love this for the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 net zero stuff. This is how you kill half the planet's population, right? Trust me, they all want it. That's why Klaus Schwab was telling you this is what's going to happen in the near future. You're going to see all these little conflicts everywhere, right? Yeah, so Netanyahu's out there saying, yeah, we won't do that again. Well, it doesn't matter. They've already done it, right? Yeah, well, like the Israeli, like Trump can't throw Israel under the bus no matter what because he's a slave to them. What's he going to do? Tell them no at this point in the game? But it doesn't matter. Israel's toast. Israel's toast. They're not going to survive this. Again, Iran is going to control the entire Middle East within 10 years. Yeah. So the U.S. has lost 51% of its fertilizer supply from the Middle East. Which, add in the fact that the United States buys 85% of its fertilizers from us up here in Canada. We're one of the largest producers in the world. Potash mines don't last forever. You know what I mean? They eventually do run dry. And it takes 10 years to build a potash mine. So permaculture, guys, that's your survival. The more you know, the less you need. You don't need to panic. You just need to get smarter. That's all. You can make fertilizer out of a lot of different things, but industrial scale fertilizer, those days, I think, are coming to a close. Very fucking scary. Very scary. The other thing, too, is, and this is going to sound funny, as long as people are out ahead of it, fertilizer, natural fertilizer like, say, cow manure, pig manure, sheep, goat, chickens like I got, that's the fertilizer you really want. Other things like bone meal, stuff like that. You can get all that stuff. The industrial fertilizer is really not healthy to be consuming. It works good and it works on that scale level. And I mean, it's safe enough to eat, but it's not as healthy as pure organic. Problem is pure organic takes a lot longer, Anyway, yeah, especially when only less than 3% of your population is farming. Yeah, you know what I mean? People don't realize who feeds the country. So Lebanon has destroyed another or a total of 7 Merkava tanks. 7 Merkava tanks out of the 1,300. Not to mention the ones that have been lost in 2006. And it's the Merkava 4s and Merkava 5s. Those are the only ones that are semi-survivable. The Merkava 2s and 3s, I don't even think there's any Merkava 1s left. Those, they couldn't even use those in Gaza, right? So yeah, of course, Hezbollah is doing coordinated attacks. Um, the Israelis had to pull back from trying to invade southern Lebanon. Look, the Israelis are fucking stupid. Let's do an 8-front war. You know what I mean? Like again, really they're on a 3-front war, but they call everything a war against them. Like the anti-Semitism stuff on the line is considered a war front. Well, if you weren't doing such douchebag things to everybody, like I mean, they're their own worst enemy. You can't reason with these people. They're so fucking stupid at this point. Like if they want to get themselves killed fighting Iran, that's up to them. Like I got no love for these people whatsoever. It's like you did it to yourself. You did it to yourself. The only thing is you dragged us in on it. And I think most people, like again, the idea of a draft, like you're gonna see, like Trump is probably going to sacrifice these Marines. Like any general that is like worth their salt would be telling Trump right now, don't send them in. We can't secure their safety. They'll be fucking slaughtered. You got a 1,000,000-man army there in Iran. 6,000 Marines will be slaughtered so fast. You'll lose the Tripoli because you can't land that thing there. You can't get it in close enough. Even with the landing craft, you can't get it in close enough or stay back far enough to, like the ship will be destroyed. It'll be destroyed. Like, trust me, they know where it is. They know where if they know where the carrier groups are, the carrier groups are like 1,000 miles off the coast. They're fucking halfway in the Atlantic, look good they're doing. But something I said, when you saw the air defense go down, you would see shorter reaction times by pilots, and you did. That incident, the best incident is the Iranian pilots with the Su-24s getting like 2 minutes away. Again, 2 minutes or 2 miles away from I was like seconds away from the fucking airbase that they were about to bomb. Right, an F-15 pilot, Kuwaiti F-15 pilot had just enough time to get his F-15 in the air, and probably wheels up just in time to lock on and shoot down the 2 aircraft. No problem for the F-15 to shoot down the aircraft, but 2 miles out, like talk about that is like fucking like the Grim Reaper, like right there. You know what I mean? Like that's seconds from death. There's nothing they're going to be able to do to save the Tripoli. Like they won't even get the guys on the like the Iranians will just sink the ship before they even get the guys on the ground. But if the Iranians want to put on a spectacle, let them get on the ground and then slaughter them, right? But that I think would be worse, and I'll tell you why. Because then you get the Saving Private Ryan effect, right? It's like rally. Oh my God, they made it on the beach and they got slaughtered, and a few guys got taken prisoner and whatever. No, the Iranians probably look at it. If we just sink the ship before it can even get close, they don't even have a chance. And sink it with drones, sink it with whatever. At that range, just send like 20 anti-shipping missiles, 100 anti-shipping. There's nothing they can do at this point. Look, the Americans only have about 300 warships all in. If you add up like destroyers and everything like that, that's all they have, right? You lose a warship. It's a great big gap in capabilities. You lose an aircraft tanker, you lose a huge capability, right? And what happens when you don't have the tankers? You got to bring they still got lots of tankers left. But where are these tankers getting reloaded? Because after all the fuel depots are blown up all over the Middle East, right? And which is showing that, okay, well, you might get the airplane, do a mission, but when you land, you gotta wait for the fuel supply to come back to the fuel is the issue now, right? Like how do you keep these aircraft running? With 600 gallons of gas every time you take off, and then three fill-ups. That's 1,800 gallons of gas per aircraft on average, like F-16s, F-18s. F-15s is like 1,500 gallons or something. I forget what the 1,000 gallons. It's a lot, F-35 I think is like 600 to 800 gallons of gas in there. You know what I mean? The avgas is not cheap, and if the refineries are blown up, you'll burn through that. And then never mind the heavy lift that have like 20,000 pounds or like 80,000 pounds of fucking fuel on board. Yeah, it's like Yeah, it's just like, yeah, so you're gonna have all these aircraft just sitting on the ground getting whacked, right? And then you have less aircraft. Then you're solely relying on the aircraft carrier. Problem is, the longest range aircraft out of the three, the Growler, the F-18 Growler, the F-18, and the F-35 might be the Growler. It might have the longest internal range. If you have to start throwing drop tanks, 1 to 3 drop tanks on these aircraft, well, for the F-35, you lose your stealth, and you can only, I think, put 2 drop tanks on that one max. Maybe you can put 4 if you wouldn't be able to maneuver at all, but maybe you can put 4 because the Israelis were doing that. But like that's probably what compromises your stealth, right? Is these drop tanks, obviously. Even though the Israelis are reported to have made their own stealth version tanks, but as we see, doesn't really matter. You get shot down anyway. So yeah, like it's crazy what's going on. It's crazy what's about to happen. But it's happening pretty much the way I said, that you take out the tankers, you take out the AWACS, you take out the radars. The aircrafts, like, what are they going to do? Fly directly? Like, and if you start shooting out the drones, right, like, sure, the Americans might have about 20,000 drones of, Reapers and Predators and whatever, and Global Hawks, but you can see that they're not using as many Global Hawks because they keep getting shot down. The Iranians have shot down about 4 or 5 of these things, in the past couple of years. The electronic warfare aircraft like the P-8 Poseidon, the E-23s and whatever, and the what's called the E-6s, all that. You're seeing those at a very standoff range, right, with the AWACS, right? But the problem is that every time you lose an AWAC, okay, suddenly your aircraft don't have the ability. They're solely linked on satellite at that point, right, for the F-35. So you just lose the intelligence from the drones, which means you have to come in closer to be able to, maybe not necessarily line of sight of your target, but you have to know exactly where your target is. And that's what the drones are doing, is line of sight, right? They're taking out things line of sight. Then once you do that, you can relay, once you have line of sight with the drone, you can relay the image back to the F-35 and it can fire, or whichever other aircraft. While if there's any enemy aircraft or anything trying to come in low, you've got the AWAC to cover that, to let the pilot know that there's something coming in. You don't have the AWAC, suddenly you might have like 2 MiG-29s pop over in behind you without you knowing it, right? F-35 with a MiG-29 on its tail is not a good place to be, no matter how old the MiG-29 is, because you're probably not going to outrun the MiG-29. Like I know it can't outrun the MiG-29. MiG-29 is faster than the F-35, and it's lighter, more maneuverable, blah, blah, blah. Might not have quite as much power, but you don't have enough to get away. Like even if they can't lock onto you, which whatever missile hit that F-35 was probably a lower grade missile. Yeah, I think if you have a MiG-29 on your tail, you're pretty much dead. The missiles will get you, even the older ones, because you're too close. Like if you're 100 miles out, sure, no problem. But like if you're like 20 miles out, that MiG-29 is going to lock onto you. You're a big enough target for the radar at that point. Even with the stealth. And if you're not at optimal angle, like that's the thing about stealth. Like it only works when you're heading straight into the radar, right? Again, it's going to be like that was a demoralizing hit. People would say, "Well, I'm glad the pilot made it back safe." Yeah, but like now every other pilot's going to be flying really nervous, and you have to understand that airplane is probably not going to be combat, ever in combat again. So you've lost a major asset. So, the world economy is being destroyed. Like Professor Morandi's like, Iran's not trying to destroy the world economy. Yes, they are. It's the best fucking tactic. It's the best thing they can do. Why? Because if you destroy the entire Middle East economy, right? Like think of all the people that are leaving the Middle East, all these like high-tech workers. You see them all over TikTok and stuff like that, driving Lamborghinis and, oh, I got this new tech job out in Saudi Arabia and, I love it here, blah, 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 living the high life and, caviar and gold-plated toilets and, whatever, right? They're gone. They're leaving. They're like, it's not worth my life. I'm not going to stay here between the, this, stupid Middle East war like that, again, didn't need to happen, but we had to do it because Israel said so, right? And, once they lose those tech jobs, like, there's no amount of money that's going to bring that back. And not only that, what was hit the other night? There was a gas sector that was hit in Saudi Arabia or Qatar last night. That's going to take 5 years to repair. 5 fucking years to repair. So, guys, when I tell you we're about to go into a global depression, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this idea that it's going to be like, hey, as soon as the war is over, everybody just, dust the glass off the sidewalk and, that's it, we're ready to go. No. Like, the Iranians are hitting like, when you see Ben Gurion Airport with like 30 fucking burnt out fucking airliners there, like every airliner is like an Airbus 340, an A380, like when you see those things burnt on, like the A380 is probably the most expensive airliner on the planet. And then you got your Dreamliners, your 747s, your 777s. Those things are massive economic hits to a country. Airliners take a long time to recoup, their costs. Like a lot of these big airliners, these transcontinental airliners, they will never make enough money to pay for themselves in their lifespan, right? But so why have them? Well, it's because you have all these little, where the money is usually made with airliners is the domestic flights, the short little twin engine that takes 100 people from here to there. So why have the intercontinental? Well, it's just you bring in more, you might break even, but you bring in more money, immediately. It's just, you need like 10 airliners to cover the cost of one. You eventually get it paid off because the other airliners can pay for themselves in their lifespan maybe twice or 3 times, 4 times, whatever it is. I don't even have to go look at the numbers. I don't know what the numbers would be. But, $500-$600 to $3,000, a flight, you know what I mean? I don't know what it costs to fly from, say, Germany to Saudi Arabia, but I can imagine flying from LAX to Saudi Arabia is pretty fucking expensive. You know what I mean? That's probably more than one flight. To fly from Vancouver to Hong Kong in a direct flight, that's probably pretty fucking expensive. You know what I mean? I know my cousin, she went to Australia back in the 90s, and that was like $1,800 back then. And it was like, I forget how many, it was a gazillion, like half a year on the airliner, to get there. It's like 9 hours at a time or whatever. Like there was like 3 flights or whatever she had to take. And that was back then. So, like $6,000, $5,000, $3,000, that's probably your average flight now. You know what I mean? When I went to Winnipeg, that was $600 from Ottawa to Winnipeg back in 2008. I didn't pay for it, but that's what it would cost. Back in 1992, when I flew from Ottawa to Toronto, and then to San Francisco, and then took a bus to LA. I did that flight on a spring, on a spring break special for like $550. There, yeah. I think it was there and back, to be honest with you. No, I think that was one way. Yeah, because I had the ticket there and back, right? And I was there for a month. Yeah, because I forget what it was. Yeah, to get the deal, I had to come back within the month, right? And I think I was only allowed to be in the country for like something like 60 days or 90 days or whatever it was, Yeah, but anyway, long story short, I did it on that cheap in 1992, right? But your dollar was worth so much more in 1992. And right now, the US dollar is in free fall. Well, it's not full free fall, but it is going down really fast. Everybody's like trying to get away from the United States. The United States has become a leper to the world, um, for business, for anything, right? And the fact that it's just lashing out, going to war with everybody. One of the things that we're going to be going to war between Canada and the United States, and look, JD Vance is already starting to beat the war drum against Canada too. You know, oh, Canada's not treating us fair, blah, blah, blah. Again, give us details. Where are we not treating you fair? You know, every time we look at every trade deal, it favors the United States, like not the other way around. Like, so it's like maybe there might be some. Sure, I'm not saying there's no trade disputes, but in general, like this idea that we're fucking over every American worker, that's just, again, you hear people parrot it, and it's just like, okay, get specific. Name where we're fucking you over. And when you look at almost every trade deal, it so heavily favors the United States to our detriment. You know, like again, nobody could pick a better trade partner, and Trump has fucked that up. And rather than, you know, because he's a psycho, he's literally a psychopath. What he's going to do is, when the economy starts failing, he's going to blame Canada for it. Again, he wants to attack us in the Northwest Passage. He's already said that. He wants to move our border back. He wants to make the 51st state. And there's still some people up here in Canada going on about like 51st state stuff and how Trump has to say. Trump fucking hates Canada. He hates us probably more than he hates the Iranians. Like, it's very easy to see, right? It's very easy. Oh, you have Trump derangement syndrome. No, I'm just telling you what the guy's saying. The guy's saying he's going to take us over. He's going to attack us. He may or may not use military force. Cuba's might be, like, is he going to go after it? Like, when this fails, and usually what happens when things start failing, Trump just walks away from it and just leaves it hanging, right? You know, it'd be funny if he did that to the Israelis, like, just see Netanyahu there. He'd be freaking out. Look, the Israelis just lost another bunch of intelligence agencies last night. They're getting hammered. We don't really know how Israel's being run right now. You know, this idea that, oh yeah, but they're just killing more Iranian. Yes, the Iranians are taking losses. Their leadership is taking losses, but it's really it doesn't really matter as much because of the way they're structured. They've already got the next 10 guys planned. You know what I mean? Like where when you get rid of like your Netanyahus or your Trumps, they don't know what to do, right? We got to get the next guy in there, like, because like the Americans don't plan long term. They never really did. And Trump is definitely not a long-term plan guy. Like, Trump is the worst negotiator I've ever seen. Like, you know, like, yes, he might have been good at real estate, but everything else he's fucked up. And that's not me picking on him. That's just is what it is, right? You can either accept it or you don't. But what I'm also saying is that, yes, when the war in Iran fails, like, there's no coming back from it. Like, it's either he steps down or the CIA or Mossad, or the military, or, like I say, most likely scenario is it's going to be a, you know, U.S. veteran is probably going to, or a veteran group is probably going to take him out. You're going to see basically a military coup, decapitation strike in the United States. The Iranians could do it too. I mean, you know, I'm not calling for anything. So I'm just saying we're in that state of government where governance is broken down. There's no rule of law. It's another illegal war of choice. The rest of the world doesn't want it. And you've got these people out there going, oh, look at all these allies. You know, we're always there helping them, and they never help us when we need them. And it's like, okay, that, number one, is a lie. You know, just because Trump told you that nobody sacrificed in you know, in Iraq and Afghanistan for the Americans, which is, again, not true. Denmark lost like 400 people. We lost like 158 people. The British lost like 400 people. You know, many nations bled for America on the war on terror, right? And to have Trump just, you know, shit on those soldiers, even if it was a bogus war for Israel, you know, again, it was just part of the Greater Israel Project. Just now we know, right? We didn't know back then. You have veterans that are just like, no, I served with Canadians. As an American, I served with Canadian unions. So they're the best of the best. I served with the Dutch. I served with the British. I served with, you know, everybody. Fuck, even the Irish had people there. You know what I mean? And, you know, France and Germany, everybody, you know. yeah, so like how insulting Trump is to every other nation. Like I get it was funny when he was like attacking like Trudeau and stuff like that, and like yeah, okay, fine, yeah, no love for that guy whatsoever. Fuck him, right? But when you attack the people, you know what I mean. You never attack the people of another nation. Like this idea that like you had Netanyahu out there. If again, I'm pretty sure. I think he is alive at this point because it's like he's responding to the current thing of the gas thing that basically saying yeah, well, I won't do that again. But he was out there like saying, look, the Iranian people, they really want to be liberated, and they don't want to be fucking liberated. Yeah, I'm sure there's some. Again, you could find the same thing in the States. You'll definitely find the same thing in Israel. Whatever. Yes, majority of Israelis are on board with what Netanyahu's doing. Um, probably about maybe 10 to 20% of the MAGA is still hardcore MAGA. The rest have jumped ship because, look, with Trump, you had like the craziest thing happen, right? You had him basically, one thing good about it is it exposes him. Yes, they did steal the election on him for one round. So people say, well, why didn't they do it the second time around? It's because he made the concessions. That's why he's doing what he. So Trump 1.0, when he won, okay, he won fair and square. Whether you like that, you don't like that, it's true. Like there was no. They tried to manipulate the election, but they didn't. They didn't go far enough, right? Because Hillary Clinton was supposed to win. So he won that round because they didn't go far enough. And again, the proof was there. There's still people that on the left that'll deny that the election, like election fraud, whatever. But it's so openly like it's just you just because you hate Trump, you won't accept that. But it's not like look, if Hillary Clinton would have won, okay, you still lost because your vote didn't mean anything, right? That's what this shows you. Your vote doesn't count. Like Hemingway said, or whoever it was said, like if voting mattered, they wouldn't let you, So the second time around, they for Joe Biden, they got it all sorted out. They still, I watched it in real time. Like, how does a man win? It's like 2 minutes to 12 o'clock, the election's over, bang. Then 3 o'clock in the morning, there's like a big ballot drop of God knows who, and then like dead people voting like 4 times. Like it's just yeah, they stole the election. Why? Because Joe Biden probably said he was going to do more. Then the billionaire class, the Israeli lobby, all them, they basically paid a little more and got Trump to say, yeah, okay, I'll do the thing. And Iran was probably the thing that they wanted him to do, right? Here we are. So that's why they let him win on the second one, which tells you your votes don't matter. So that exposes that. And if you're on the left and on the right, you should be pissed. Like if you're the most craziest liberal, progressive, you should be just as mad as anybody on the right. Why? Because your vote did not count. Up here in Canada, yeah, there was a little bit of stuff that was kind of questionable. But no, Carney won fair and square. I don't like him. I voted for Pierre, but Carney did win fair and square. And it was a mega turn. It was the largest voting for Conservative Party in Canada's history. So, like, even if you don't like Pierre, you got to hand him, like, the credit that he took the Conservative Party further than anybody else could. It's just Trump fucked our election. He intervened. And he basically endorsed, like, an endorsement was a kiss of death, right? So, like, Trump wanted Carney to win, so that's why he endorsed Pierre, right? And that basically cost him, like, Pierre had the election like that. Like, it was almost 100% his because Trudeau was so bad. Now, Carney, the media, obviously, the CBC, they manipulated the election by, Carney's the guy for the job. Which, okay, that part, that's why the CBC needs to be, basically dismantled, and we got to start over with that one. Not even necessarily privatized, but just we got to get it back to a fair and non-biased, like having just a left-wing perspective on everything is why we're in the problems we have, right? Even the left doesn't even realize that. Like, you're your own problem. Like, you can't have free everything. You know what I mean? Like certain things, yes, we all agree on the left and the right for the most part in Canada that our healthcare system is still one of the best in the world. Yes, it has a lot of problems. You can't have an open immigration system and free healthcare. It's like that's why we never have enough doctors. That's why the nurses have to work 16 fucking hours a day. You know what I mean? That's why nobody can get a family doctor because 23% at the this is 2015 numbers. 23% of our hospitals are overrun by immigrants, right? You get rid of that 23%, you probably hospital wait times and stuff like that will go away. You know what I mean? Like you'll get more family doctors, you'll get more of this. That's why we can never keep up to it. We brought in 11 million people in a decade. Like it's too fucking much. That's crazy. It's crazy. Good news though is for 2 quarters in a row, for the first time since 1947, Canada's population is shrinking. So look, we just lost 84,000 jobs. I'm wondering if those were foreign workers. I'm hoping that's what that was. So yeah, they're still registering as job losses, but they get it, that's part one. Part two is they got to get rid of the diversity and equity laws so that people can get hired. This idea that we can never hire white people again because racism and colonialism, like fuck that. You know what I mean? Like no more of that. Um, like Bill C-200, like hopefully that passes. So they no longer take migrant status into consideration when they sentence people because they were doing that. So basically, because these people were brown and from somewhere else, we gotta take their migrant status, and not charge them enough that they'll be deported. Like those activist judges should be hanging from the gallows for treason. Um, like there's no reason for that. Like progressive judges have got to go. They've got to go. If you can't do your job, you should not have it, especially something that important. Because without rule of law, our countries are going to be very Mad Max, right? So we'll see what happens there. So Bill C-9, Bill C-220, keep an eye on those two. The gun grab thing, like again, it seems like almost every premier is against it. Um, yeah, so I'm hoping Carney's going to choke on that because like the idea of like, okay, well, we're just going to take the semi-automatics from Canadian firearms owners and give them to the Ukrainians. Like, fuck you, you're an asshole. Nobody wants to do it, right? Nobody wants to do it. It's a bridge too far. It's a bridge too far. So I think what he's probably going to do is just keep kicking the can down the road because got bigger fish to fry. Like again, we might be like after the Iran invasion fails, he might go after Cuba next. Like right now, Cuba is like a friendly takeover of Cuba. Yeah, like a friendly takeover of Iran. Nobody wants U.S. liberation because it means you're going to kill half the women and children. Oh, but it's for democracy and women and children. No, it's not for that. The goal for Netanyahu and the Israelis is to wipe out every Iranian on the planet. And a lot of people in the Gulf states that are playing ball, a lot of people don't understand it. He wants them gone too. This is why he's saying, oh, look, after Iran, we're going to have to go after Turkey. So it wasn't just the Greater Israel project of just taking out 7 countries in 5 years, like General Wesley Clark was saying. No, he wants to take out the whole Middle East. Why? Israelis are genocidal fucking maniacs. I think that should be pretty clear. And not every one of them, but after you displace 2 million people and kill 70,000, mostly of children and teenagers, and call them terrorists. I think it's pretty easy to make the like you're genocidal maniacs, right? Look, the Israelis are looking for every excuse they can to nuke Iran because that's the quickest way to kill everybody, right? But the thing is they also want Iran to wipe out all the neighboring Gulf states. Why? Because if you can kill all the Saudis, kill all the Qataris, the Kuwaitis, whatever, they'll never be able to rise up against you either, and you'll be able to own it all, right? And that's what Israel wants. It's Henry Kissinger's MSS N-200. Arm all your enemies to fight your enemy, and then let them wipe each other out, and then you can come in and swoop in and clean up the resistance at the end, right? So yeah, they want those guys done too. That's why they want the Kurds fighting. That's why they want to arm the Kurds to fight. To fight Iran. The Iraqis are against this. The Turks are against this, right? So, and of course, the Iranians are against this. And most of the Kurds are like, yeah, we're not going to take on Iran. Some of them are, but they want to give air support to the Kurds. The Iranians are probably looking at this. Well, you could do it, but not only are we going to kill your rebel groups. Like, there's a reason why ISIS couldn't make it into Iran. The Iranians were, like Soleimani. That's why Trump killed Soleimani, because he was taking out the U.S. and Israeli proxy groups, which was Al Qaeda, ISIS, Al Nusra Front, IS, ISIL, all these jihadi groups. There's like 1,100 jihadi groups in Syria, right? That were in on that. But the bigger group was called ISIS. Obama's varsity group, right? And Soleimani, maybe not a nice guy, but the number one guy at taking out these, the regime. So like the ISIS, like Assad's guys failed at the very last. They got checkmated and they got rid of Assad, but the Iranians were helping the Tiger Force and the Eagle Force, basically the two major, Syrian Arab Army guys that were going around fighting. Like they were there was only like 3,500 of these guys, and they were going around taking out the ISIS guys, right? Now you've got basically an Al Qaeda leader running the country because that's what Israel wanted. Assad nowhere to be seen; he's hiding in Russia or someplace like that. But the thing is that if you arm the Kurds, then Turkey's going to flip sides, and if you had an Iranian-Turkish alliance. Like Turkey wants the Ottoman Empire 2.0 to take up half of Europe. He's openly talked about this, right? And yes, Germany will go to war with Turkey in the near future, probably within the next couple of years, depending on how this goes. Because Turkey's probably going to kick the shit out of Israel, right? They've done it a few times. Like the Turks bully the Israelis more than you'd know. They keep the Israelis at bay, right? And there's nothing the Israelis can't take the Turks. They can't. They just can't. Turkey's like the largest NATO member next to the United States, right? Like they're huge. They got older stuff, but they've got they'll go toe to toe World War II style with the Israelis. The Israelis might have some upper hands and whatever. But with the damage that's done now, like there's, like Turkey would just fucking level, you'd have, the Turkeys have like everything, right? They got F-16s, they have F-4 Phantoms still, they got a lot, And, like you've got Egypt sitting there trying to stay out of all this. Israel's already talking about striking Egypt. And the Egyptians like, don't do that, Egypt is basically, since the overthrow of Morsi, the U.S. puppet, in 2011, the Arab Spring, they've been just sitting quiet, sitting out of everything. Like basically, no, you're not going to, Israel's not going to flood all the Palestinians to us. We don't want them. They're your problem. You take care of them. But, if you get a tank battle, but, a desert tank battle between Israel and Egypt, you're talking about nearly 2,000 to 3,000 tanks out there battling it out. The thing is that the Egyptians have Abrams tanks. They might be slightly older, but they're still Abrams tanks. They're going to take on that mighty Merkava. I don't know who will kill who has better training, but my hunch is that Egypt, they have a lot older aircraft, but they have a lot of new aircraft too. My hunch is Egypt would probably win the conflict against Israel, if all things considered. And they would definitely win now because Israel's half destroyed, right? We'll see what tonight brings. No, I think the Israelis and Jews around the world are about to experience, like final solutions in a lot of countries. I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying, look, people have had enough of their bullshit. You're not going to gaslight the Iranians are the terrorists here. You attacked them. The United States attacked them on your behalf. This idea of trying to blame Trump for dragging Israel into the war is like fucking ridiculous. Like it's so openly admitted by the Israelis, like, and the Israelis were in on night one. Like it wasn't like, oh, a week later, well, we got to get in on this because no, the Americans followed the Israelis in, right? And what they do is they say, okay, well, we have to make sure that we don't take the blame. You take the blame. Why? Because the people that serve Israel in the U.S. government, they don't care if the America takes the hit. They don't care if they take the economic hit. They don't care if they take their blood spills. Like the Israelis will fight Iran to the last American. They don't care. You know what I mean? And the Iranians, they're not stupid. They're ready for it, right? So we'll see what's going to go out. But again, when it's still going to be a few more days before the Tripoli gets there. We'll find out once and for all. Like again, I don't know if these things are going to be going. Like again, all these. Well, it's not truly boots on the ground because it's an island. It's not mainland um, Iran, so therefore it doesn't count. I'm pretty sure the Iranians are going to say, no. You put those guys in any Gulf state, they're going to hit them. Like where are you going to put these guys? Like how are you going to disperse them? What I think they're going there for, judging on what other veterans have said, is that they're probably going there to clear out the embassies in the region, to get their guys out safely, get the citizens out, and probably basically get like all the important military stuff off the bases, because again, it's going to be a humiliating defeat for the Americans when they've been driven out of the Middle East, right? It'll be good for the Americans long term. It will be. You're always going to have that boomer type that says, well, we should have done this. We should have nuked Iran. We should have done this. And why do you fucking want to keep our people there getting killed? You know what I mean? Like, sure, I'm a Canadian, whatever. But, I consider the Americans brothers, from a different mother. Like, why are you getting our people killed for Israel? For Zionism? For like a fucking lunatic religion. Judaism is like one of the most evil fucking religions out there. Like, it's really bad. Christianity has its issues, sure. But like Judaism is a complete supremacy. Whether they're following the Talmud or the Torah, it's the ways in which they do it. And again, when you look into it, they hate everybody. They hate everybody that's not Jew. Even the non-secular Jews are like they have this hateful streak in them that makes them progressives. It's like, oh well, we gotta, okay, if we're not gonna take you down with Zionism and kill the goy that way. Well, we got to open your borders. We got to bring in progressivism and do transgender operations, experiments on your children. It never ends with them, right? There's something wrong with the breed. Is it all of them? No, but at the majority of them, probably there's a pattern. It's the same problem you have with the Muslims. They're not compatible with the West. Everybody knows that. You can call me a racist, bigot, whatever. But if you ask Muslims, do you like this in the West, you like that in the West, and most of the time they'll say, no, we want it the way it was in the Middle East. You know what I mean? People make the place. There's a reason why, like I say, when you get Saudis, for example, right, there's a reason why they buy, they don't have an ample food supply there. Why? Because those type of people are more likely to buy supercars and build luxury hotels, rather than, worry about the population and say, hey, you know what, let's create desalination points in like a chain of greenhouses. It's the desert, best place to build a greenhouse, you know what I mean? Like, you can run the seawater for cooling. You could do all kinds of stuff and, secure your food supply. No. You go to Iceland. Yeah, we'll use thermal volcanic energy to power the island. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, people make the place. Like you got a most desolate place on the planet, like Iceland. Like, I mean, it's just basically tundra rock up there, and they live off the sea. They live off, like they've got all this innovative technology. Why? Because they priority the survival and the well-being of the people over the luxury. Everybody kind of makes the same income. It's not a communist country, but it's like everybody just kind of like, okay, we want to keep everybody comfy, right? Sweden and Norway are similar in that way. Sweden has a lot of problems with progressivism, same way we do in Canada. I get it. Australia, New Zealand, UK. Yes, we've got fucking crazies running our government. There's no doubt about that. But genocidal maniacs is a whole new ball game, and that's what Israel has running its country. So you reap what you sow. You go to war with everybody around you. They're gonna, like, it might not work out in the favor. Just because you think you're the chosen people doesn't mean you're actually the chosen people. And if you really follow the Christian Bible or the Catholic Bible, no, they're not the chosen people. Those who follow Christ, those who follow God, are the chosen people. If you say, well, I don't believe in that stuff. Well, it doesn't matter if you believe it. The lunatics that are in charge of the big red button believe that. So when I've been telling you guys Trump is a Zionist evangelical doomer, like, you're seeing, like, the mask is completely off. You're seeing the Paul, like, a lot of people think Trump is just pandering to his base. No, he's a true believer. That's why and I've been telling you guys this since his first term. Don't give like, after the second year, I was like, and he choked after the sequester, and he just started doing everything for Israel. I told you, he was Israel's guy. Mike Pompeo back then was saying the quiet part out loud. Now it's Hegseth. If you really want to know what Trump thinks, listen to Hegseth. He says they believe it's the apocalypse, right? And they're trying to usher it in, which is very fucking terrifying. So yes, they are going to bring out nukes on this one because they have to. They're going to lose the war. And nuking 91 million people or 94 million people in Iran is not going to make them win the war, no matter how many nukes you fire there. Iran, number one, is a big country. You can fire every nuclear weapon at Iran and irradiate the entire area for the next 20,000 years. Sure, fine. But you won't kill all the Iranians, and the retaliation will be indefinite. Like the Iranians, okay, like the Israelis are trying to find a way out, because usually what the way the program's supposed to go is the Israelis and the Americans decapitate the leadership, the government crumbles, and bang, next thing you know, you've got regime change or destabilization to the point where they can't organize, and then you can just, knock off targets willy-nilly, put in your puppet, and away you go. It's what they did with every Arab country, It's just Syria took the longest to fall. Iraq and Afghanistan fell early, but it's chaos there, right? So it's like, and then of course Afghanistan. Well, they're now at war with the fucking Pakistanis for whatever reason. No, the Taliban, like all the war on terror stuff in Afghanistan, just to watch over opium fields and all. Again, listen to the veterans. They'll tell you what they were doing there. They weren't there for the women and children of democracy. None of these wars were ever legit wars. They were all for Israel. They were all for the banking class, the investor class, the stakeholder capitalists. That's who they were for. But mostly for Israel. Again, easy to track if you just listen to you don't have to go and listen to the conspiracy theorists, guys. Just listen to the actual people in charge. Like, they tell you everything. Sometimes you have to decode it a bit. Okay, well, what does he mean by that? But after you hear it the first time, the second time, the third time, it's like, okay, yeah, no, these people are lunatics. Okay, yeah, no big surprise here. Yeah, no, that's the problem. They're just lunatics, right? Problem is, they're going to get everybody killed, and the amount of people that are about to starve to death, especially in Africa, because you have to understand that food hub. With the Middle East, most of these countries, like 80 to 90% of their food was shipped in. You've got maybe a couple of weeks left of food there. That's it. And then the desalination plants, again, you start taking those out in the Middle East, those people are as good as dead. Everybody's going to become a Tuareg again, and you're not going to have 1 billion people in the Middle East being able to survive. There's not enough resources. And the solution that the leftist elites are going to say is, well, we have to save these refugees. It doesn't matter. We can't take care of them. It'll collapse everybody's economy. It doesn't matter if 5 million people flood into France tomorrow morning. There's no way to feed them. There's just no way to do it. You can bring 500 million people into Canada. Food runs out in a week. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. There's no saving these people at this point. Once you've destroyed that much production of oil, just think of the power outages, okay? Just think about this, okay? An Iranian rocket hits some substation somewhere, right? Knocks the power out in the desert, okay? Your supermarket The meat section, no air conditioning, gone overnight. Like not like here in Canada, 35 degrees in the summertime, your power goes out, your freezer's good for almost a week as long as you don't open it, right? It won't thaw out for about that long, even in 30-degree heat. But the desert, you're talking 50 degrees. You're talking, 120 degrees on the pavement, 200 degrees on the pavement. Like it's fucking ridiculously hot there, right? Yeah, that meat spoils. Nothing new coming in. Yeah, these people are going to starve today. They're going and the thing is trains are getting blown up. Like again, this is why I tell you, like if you're in the Middle East and you're watching this, and maybe you're seeing stuff that we're not and not allowed to talk about it, whatever. Which you're starting to see more stuff come out because they're not going to be able to control the footage is going to get out. It might come out a week later, but it's going to come out because there's no way. Like, look, the Saudis they've told people if you release footage of the damage, we're going to execute you. Right? You're going to go to jail. We're going to execute you. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Like the financial sector of Saudi Arabia has been, or Qatar, UAE has been hit. They're really hitting the UAE hard because like the UAE is most kind of like the spearhead of the anti-Iranian coalition of the Middle East outside of Israel, right? Like they're the ones that are the most compliant. So the thing is that the Iranians know who their enemies are. And what was not factored in by Trump or Netanyahu, like Netanyahu factored in that we're going to get hit by rockets. Obviously they did. The Americans did. So everybody concentrated their air defense to protect Israel, and they still did, right? They were intercepting missiles on their way to Israel and letting, like in Qatar and in Saudi Arabia, this has got to piss the Saudi people off, and not, firing the rockets that were going towards Israel, but not stopping the rockets coming into their own country, right? And now you've lost those, like at least 10 major radar systems in the region, which means the early warning is not there, right? To the point, like I say, where two older 1960s Su-24s got 2 minutes from a U.S. base in Qatar, right? Like that, you cannot play that down. Sure, they weren't successful, but they were seconds out. 2 miles at 700 miles an hour, like they were seconds out. They were going to be there in under 20 seconds. Like that is fucking close. Like I like again, the wheels would have been like fucking hitting the building tops off that F-15 by the time he launched the missiles. These Kuwaiti pilots, they're getting fucking worn down trying to fucking find these little freaking 70-mile-an-hour drones. They're almost impossible to fucking detect when they're low to the ground like that. Again, they travel thousands of miles undetected. And now the radar systems, so the only way to find them now is if the Apache gunship helicopters, which can't really chase down these 70-mile-an-hour drones when they get too much of a lead on them. So, if you're close enough, sure, you'll get them. But, a loadout of like Stinger missiles or something like that, whatever you're going to get, but, and, maybe the chain gun. But even at that, it's like you can get like 30 millimeter airburst rounds. I'm sure they can be fired from the Apaches to shoot down drones, sure. But you've got to get, like if you got a drone that's like 5 miles ahead of you, okay, you can only top out at 150 miles an hour at redline in your Apache. Chances are by the time you catch up to him, he's already hit the target. You know what I mean? So like, they got F-16s barely able to intercept these things. Like once they hone in on them, no problem. They've shot down, the footage is quite spectacular. They've been using guns. They've got these kind of rocket pods on the F-16s that are like a shotgun. They go out and they shoot down the drone. They're the most effective. But even at that, sometimes even like the rounds just go clean right through the drone. The drone just keeps. It's like a Hawker Hurricane from World War II. You shoot the tail of it, it doesn't matter. It's just fabric. It just goes through, leaves a little hole, and patch it up on the ground. That's kind of what's. In fact, what would probably be the best thing to shoot down these drones, okay, would be like a P-51, a Spitfire, an ME-109, like a Hawker Hurricane, a Typhoon, like the early Typhoons from World War II. Sopwith Camel, the Eindecker, just get the radio. Yeah. Would you imagine what little cloth wing biplanes? Like again, guys, we might go back to that, like that kind of warfare. Obviously, it'll be more advanced airplanes, but you could see like the Sopwith Camel 2 come out, where it's like, yeah, you're shooting through the propeller um, in a little like like almost ultralight type of airplane under 3,000 pounds, but you got like 2,000 rounds of like 50 cal or something, incendiary rounds, or maybe you got one big Hispano 20 millimeter on there blasting away, or off the wingtips or what. Who knows? Who knows? You know what I mean? The P-47 2.0 just sitting there going around shooting drones. That would be fucking awesome for those airplanes. And if you wanted, you know what, Focke-Wulf 190. Okay, you probably guys don't know this. I know we're getting a little off topic now, but the World War II German Focke-Wulf 190 is still in production. Yes, the Germans they'll sell you it without the guns or whatever, but you can buy a brand new World 1943, Butcher whatever Butcher Bird, Emmy, what's called Focke-Wulf 190. You can buy that from Germany. I don't know what it costs. Probably costs you about $500,000 or more. Well, probably more than that. Probably about $1 million something. Yeah, people are still buying them. You can get them full scale or 3/4 scale or something like that. Yeah, so maybe okay. Well, we'll get Germany to say, okay, well, maybe we'll throw those 30 millimeters on there, and the what was the 14.5 millimeter rounds. Get those things out. Can you imagine those, like basically World War II Nazi aircraft chasing down these drones, shooting them? That would be fucking crazy. That would be crazy. That'd be awesome. It'd be fun. As long as you weren't too close when it blew up. Seeing a Spitfire Mark 14, zipping around with that big Griffin engine, angry Griffin engines coming up right in behind there. That'd be so awesome. That'd be so awesome. So anyway, like that part would be fun as long as people didn't die, right? But unfortunately, we don't know how many people are killed. Look, they're going to slow. It's very obvious now that they're going to slow drip the casualties. Like they're not even. They'll tell you about, okay, yeah, an old couple was killed in Israel in one of these strikes. Well, if they were killed, how many other people were killed? Like when you see a half of a fucking building just vaporize from these rocket attacks, like anybody in there is dead. Like they don't know what the body count is. Again, this idea that the air raid sign grows and everybody's going to make it to the target, into the shelter. Like you don't know where the targets are going. You don't know where the rockets are going. You know what I mean? The Iranians give you a little bit of warning. Don't stand beside famous people. Don't stand beside politicians. Don't stand beside banks. Don't stand beside any military personnel. Because we're not, like the Iranians are not taking the populace into consideration. They're looking at military targets and how to win a war. And they are winning. They're not winning in the sense that they're not taking losses. And again, people just concentrate on that, yeah, well, we're blowing this up, we're blowing that up. But like I said, taking out a truck full of hummus, calling it a rocket, a possible terrorist truck, versus taking out a F-35, or let alone a bunch of them on the ground. Again, the stuff is being confirmed. Again, when they start really taking out the air tankers, that's going to change the war. The radars and the tankers are once they've got those guns, they're pretty much going to control the Middle East with impunity. At that point, once you start seeing Su-24s carpet bomb like the runways, like they're going to be able to drop the heavy bombs. You're going to see, it's going to be bizarre. Like I said, there's going to come a day where there's going to be complete radio silence from Israel. And I'm sure the night before, there's going to be a plethora of Su-24s bombing the shit out of every sort of communication device you could possibly imagine in Israel. If they, all these, they're getting shut down, taking out all these towns. Like Hezbollah's moving in, or holding off, at least holding them off. Anyway, Israel is fucked. Like the only way those people are getting out of there, again, they can't get out of the airports are pretty much all locked down, because as soon as they start loading passengers, the fucking terminal gets hit, right? And then you lose a bunch of planes, and these cluster bombs, rockets, they're getting heavier. They're getting heavier. And the truck launchers, a lot of the rockets are coming out of the mountain, right? Like the heavy rockets are coming out of the mountains. These launchers are not as important as Trump. Like again, they destroyed like 390 of these Iranian rocket launchers, right? But some of them, it's just the trailer is the launcher. It's the truck that goes back and forth and pulls them out. So they don't care if the launcher part gets hit after it's factored in, right? But the more advanced missiles are not coming out on the trucks as much. They're coming out through the fucking basically silos coming out through the mountain from like a mile underneath the ground, you know. And there's no way to get them. Like there's no way to get to get these tunnels destroyed. And if you don't destroy the tunnels, again, the Iranians are probably going to be able to fight a war indefinitely. Maybe not at the saturation levels that they're doing, but if they can fire just 10 rockets successfully per day, 30 rockets a day for the next year looks like a very fucking, the entire Middle East will be just rubble. Just think of what's been destroyed in 3 weeks. It's astronomical. And again, Israel's not very big. And once Israel's completely destroyed, like at what point are the other countries going to say that, this cost is just too high? It's just too high. We're out. Okay, U.S., you have to go. I think that's what these, if we see them land on Tripoli, or land the Tripoli on the, amphibious assault on Cargo Island or whatever, okay, that Trump is sacrificing those guys on purpose, right? Now, the Iranians could pull a fast one, pin them down, and then take them prisoner. That would be even more humiliating, right? Then you got a big negotiation trip, okay? For every day, we got, say, 400 of or say 1,400 of the 5,000 guys are still alive. We took them prisoner, whatever. Or maybe they surrendered, like 2,000 guys, whatever. Okay, we're going to actually behead a guy a day for every day that this war goes on. And we're going to put it on national TV. Like Americans just won't be able to tolerate that. They won't be like, okay, we got to go get even. They're just going to be like, no, don't kill our guy. Don't kill our guy. We'll name the guy. Here's his family. He gets to say goodbye to his family. Put your head on the block. You know what I mean? That's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do if they catch. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Right? Because PR, number one, is bad. Every American soldier that dies is getting blamed on the Trump administration, Zionists, Jews. And again, because that's what it's for, right? So this is the first. Like the war on terror was easy to keep people angry at Muslims because nobody really understood, right? And again, yes, Muslims. Again, I don't want my country, becoming a Muslim country, whatever. Sure, I don't want it to become I don't want it to become Hindustan. I don't want it to become fucking Muslim. I don't want, again, I want Canada to be the Canada I grew up in. Like right now, we're now the 20 on the Human Happiness Index. Canada has fallen to like North Korean levels, like around like the 21st or 22nd happiest country in the world. Like that's how depressed people are here. And I can guarantee you where I know where most of it is. It's not even just the economic situation. Yes, the housing has a lot to do with it. The number one is the demographic replacement. That's where the people are upset, right? And we're bringing in people that are fucked up anyway, like from war zones and shit like that. And again, we shouldn't be in their countries. I agree. Everybody agrees. It's only these people at the top that create all these problems for us. And again, it's something I talk about in my 2060 dystopia book, where like there's going to be coming a purge of the elites. I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying I don't see how it doesn't happen because you can only make people so angry, right? And when they start seeing 1 million migrants a month coming into Europe, at that point, they're like, once the people who believe in rule of law no longer believe in rule of law because you got hate speech laws putting people in jail for Holocaust denial and stupid shit like that. While you got these grooming gangs, you've got fucking home invasions, you've got all this violence, you've got these freaking Indian truckers just crashing all over the place and killing people. People are really, really mad. It's just, it takes a long time before the revolt happens, but once it happens, that's it. The ruling class will be no more because I can guarantee you nationalism is going to be taking over in the next 10 years. Even here in Canada, even here, like Carney is not a nationalist, but he is doing some nationalist things because that's the only way to survive. Every party has had to move to the nationalist talking points on immigration, even including Pierre Poilievre. Like he can't come out and say remigration now, but he has, like he's suggesting things that he knows that, okay, well, yes, liberals and conservatives have for years and years been pandering to the minority and pandering and pandering and pandering, but it's getting to the point where we're pissing off the majority so much that they still might revolt. So again, if there was a time for a nationalist party to come up, it would be now. Like again, the ruling class, which are usually Jewish, are not going to fund that, right? They're not going to fund real nationalism. They'll fund, like, say, like a Geert Wilders or something like that, who, basically, anti-Muslim, whatever, but he'll never touch the Jewish question, right? His wife's Jewish or something like that. But the thing is you have to. It's all coming to a head now. It doesn't matter whether I talk about it or somebody else talks about it. You can call me anti-Semite all you want, but everything I'm talking about, am I wrong? No. You can just call me, racist, bigot, white supremacist, blah, 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 anti-Semite, and all that stuff. But again, you can't disprove anything what I'm saying. Actions have consequences. And when you go out of your way to just, piss off your populace by, with hate speech laws and so on, to shut them up, it never works. You'll just create a pitchfork revolution. The art of the defuse is free speech. Basically, allow people to say what they want to say. Yes, I understand there's uttering death threats and slander and stuff. We already had laws for that. Let's just follow those, right? But the thing is that's not what it's for. What it's for is people that are, over the target. Flak is always thickest over the target. So when you call out these evildoers, as George Bush would say, again, they project everything, right? These genocidal maniacs, like, again, because that's what they are, right? So does that mean I love Iran? No, I don't have anything to fucking do with Iran. Just leave those people alone. Let them stay there. Fine, whatever. If you leave them alone, they were leaving everybody else alone. Oh, but we've been attacked by 47 years. Okay, name me the attack, name me the date and time, and name me the Iranian that did it. Oh, but they did it through proxy. Yeah, okay, fine. But that's not them. That's their proxy, okay? Which then, if you're going to talk about proxies, okay, fine. Then why was the United States, Israel, on Israel's behalf, arming ISIS? You know what I mean? If you want to talk about proxies, we'll talk about proxies. You know what I mean? Like, war's a scam. You want to hire mercenaries and keep all this war going, Again, it's not going to, like, this day of the one-sided narrative is over. Like, there's nothing you can do about it now. It's going to come to a head no matter what. And the people are pissed. The people are pissed. We got a longer way to go before the ship rights itself. And the amount of horror that is coming to everybody, again, guys, I told you, like, people are talking about, 150 to 200 barrel oil. It's going to be like $1,000 to $1,500 barrel oil. It's going to be like 20,000 to 30,000 gold. That's what we're, and then that's not the important stuff. The important stuff is the unobtainium, meaning you can't buy it no matter if you have a bar of gold. Remember, was it the Disney or Bugs Bunny or whatever? I'd trade my whole kingdom for a hamburger sandwich. Yeah. That's where we're headed, guys. That there is, like, we're not prepared for that in the West. To see, like, again, when I told you guys that, okay, it was going to start in probably February. Okay, so it was March. The starvation is now really starting in March. Okay, the United States, and there's still Americans that are challenge me, Reg, and I know it's all done out of respect. So, like, I'm not bashing. I'm telling you, I'm not going to be wrong on this one, because you just got to look at the numbers. Trump has fucked the farmers in the name of Bill Gates. He's fucked the farmers so badly in 2025, right? And you guys that have been following my, This Week in World Crazy, I explained to you detail by detail from the farmer's mouth, not one guy, not a couple of anecdotal, but thousands of farmers have been saying the same thing. I'm out of business. I can't compete. Input costs are too high. Okay, we can't get this because of the tariffs. We can get this because of the tariffs, but now what used to cost me $4,000 a year now costs me $45,000 a year. You got farmer after farmer; they lost half of their workforce. Like I got all these carrots in the ground, and like all these guys in Texas, I got all these carrots in the ground. I got nobody to pick them, and he's sitting there bawling while he's trying to pick carrots to save his farm. That's it. It's game over. Now a farmer can take a hit for a year, maybe even 2 years or 3 years, but they can't take it indefinitely. And not every farmer can take a hit every year. Not every farmer can do that. When you have 40,000 acres of fucking land, or 40 acres, 100 acres, whatever it is of land, 500 acres, 14,000 acres of land, you're talking billions in losses. And we're going to see very early in a couple of months in the spring the amount of farmers. Okay, you lost 18,000 last year for closed, which again, I'm sure Bill Gates bought up all the farms, but Bill Gates is not going to get these farms up and going. He wants half the planet to die, right? He wants net zero. This is going to, again, they'll scapegoat the industry or whatever. Fine. They're trying to scapegoat that the reason why the farmers in the States are having a hard time is because Canada exists, right? It's like, well, Canada's charging too much for the fertilizers. No, we're not. We're charging you the same. You guys have put tariff on it. You put a 35% tariff on potash, right? That's a 35% increase in the food supply, minimum, right? And then you put the 15% tariff on diesel, farming diesel. You're now at what, 60%? Or sorry, 35, 40, 50% fucking increase in your food. You know what I mean? So they dropped it down to like 10% or whatever because Trump's a lunatic. It doesn't matter. There should be no tariff on, every analyst has said that on the left, on the right. Okay, I understand the tariff and make America great again. Okay, I'm for tariffs, blah, blah, blah. I'm for tariffs that are done sanely. Like the banter between, say, the canola farmers and the EVs between China and Canada. Okay, that's how you do a tariff war. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, the canola farmers out west were bitching about whatever. And then in Ontario they were bitching about like the EV thing, whatever. And the Chinese were like, "Well, open your markets to us," or whatever. And then we're like, "Okay, well, we'll open the market, but you drop the tariffs on the canola." Okay, we'll drop the canola. Okay, well, we'll drop the tariffs on the canola. Okay, down to, and then everybody's happy again, or happy-ish again. They're not happy. They find new things to bitch about. Okay, fine. That's a tariff war without destroying the entire fucking economy, right? This idea of taking out Iran's oil to take out China, and then attacking and going to war with Canada physically. Again, Trump thinks he's going to be able to roll tanks through Canada. It's going to be a 3-day war. Iran was supposed to be like a 1-2 night war. Yeah, how does that work out for you? Name me one time in fucking history there was a 3-day war, on a big scale like that. No. You think Canada is truly going to be a 3-day war? No. Not with Canadians and Ukrainians training on drones together. No. Look, we're about to ramp up our drone production. Look, the anti-tank weapon is going to be the death of a lot of Americans coming across that border. Yes, sure, it's only Highway 16, guys. From New York State, come across the Thousand Island Bridge with a full brigade of fucking Abrams tanks and Bradleys and whatever. You could send all 5,500 Abrams tanks across. They'd never make it to Ottawa. They'll never make it to Ottawa. You could send the entire U.S. Air Force, bomb the shit out of the country to the Stone Age. Right? You'll never make it to Ottawa. You'll never get there. You'll never make it past the rock shield. You'll never make it past the rock shield. Even the old NX anti-tank weapons, even if we have 500 or 600 of them, right? It's like, again, you can reload these things, right? If we have 10 rounds per, you're going to lose all your tanks just with those, just in the ambushes. You don't have enough drones. You don't have a big enough military. It's not powerful enough. Yes, you do. Your A-10s would, decimate a lot of infrastructure. There's no doubt about that. But you would lose a lot of A-10s to mad Madden launchers. You'd lose your Apache gunship helicopters to mad. That's why they stopped using them in Iraq and Afghanistan predominantly, was because Desert Storm, they were fine. There wasn't a lot of air defense, and there wasn't a lot of MADPAN launchers to deal with. But most of the Apaches were taken down with MADPAN launchers, RPG 7s. It just happened that your main gun is at about the same range, and if you fire 10 of them at once, usually one hits the helicopter and takes it down. Now, if you got a Black Hawk with 16 guys in it, and you fly in front of a lav sitting in the bush in the tree line with its 20 AMX 25 millimeter round. I got the round up there on the thing. That thing is going to knock that out of the sky with all 16 guys every time, right? We're going to march our guys through the bush. Well, you're going to die of exposure. Canada is one of the most uninvadable places on the planet. That's why we've been so lax in the Arctic, and of course, with everything building up. Yes, most of our tanks are overseas. I get that. A lot of them we gave to the Ukraine. I don't know how many out of the 140 tanks that we had. I don't know how many we have left. The F-18s, yeah, they're probably not going to be meeting you in the sky as much. But if they do, again, the better pilot's going to win because we pretty much have the same technology in a lot of ways. Like the F-35 is not that much more advanced than the CF-18. In fact, most of the advancements on the F-18 came from Canada, because you guys built it as a budget aircraft, low tech, and we had to make it a multi-role aircraft that had to do everything. So we kept upgrading it. And so that's where, that's where a lot of the innovations came from, was Canada upgrading these things, right? So yes, you have the air power, sure, but it's not you can't win a war with air power. Iran is telling you this, right? And look at, you hit 16,000 targets, and they're still doing the biggest barrages ever. Every time Trump comes out and says something stupid like, we've wiped out yes, the MAGA base believes it, the boomer MAGA that, only watches Fox News. Yeah, that guy is as stupid as a fucking sack of potatoes. No offense to the sack of potatoes, but at least they're useful, you know what I mean? But yeah, the average person can clearly see that it's made no difference whatsoever. Yes, you've destroyed their 120 vessels. They're still mining the strait. They're still controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Again, and so a lot of these vessels are drone boats too. The Iranians have a superior tactic here. It's not always about the weapons. Yes, it'll always be, no matter how much AI you bring in, the man versus the machine. The man's always going to be the main thing that makes the machine work, right? But even at that, you're getting F-35 shot down. If the Iranians can shoot down F-35s, you don't think Canadians can? Yes, we're lacking in air defense, but that's about to change. By the time you're ready for the invasion, which, again, the two places to watch is the Northwest Passage. I have a hunch in the spring, and it'd be really funny, though, because what I have a hunch is, the U.S. warships are not really designed for the Arctic, right? They're designed to fight in southern. They can fight in the fucking the Pacific, the Atlantic, but the Arctic Ocean, that is a whole different type of, that water line below is a total different warship. You've got jet pumps and stuff like that the ice will clog up in 5 seconds. You can't keep the toilets running on the Gerald Ford in the fucking Mediterranean, or in the Gulf of Arabia. You're not going to be able to keep it running in the Arctic easily. There's a reason why the U.S. doesn't have a huge naval presence past Alaska. They're not designed for it. Canada is probably the country with the best amount of capability, or the largest capability, next to the numbers of the United States. But equipment wise, we have the most Arctic functioning equipment than just about anybody, maybe next to the Finns. Finns, Sweden, Denmark, Kingdom of Denmark, Greenland. Greenland uses all the other stuff, and Iceland. We're now one big super pack. We're the Arctic Seven. We're the Arctic Seven. There's the Arctic Five and the Arctic Seven, right? Or the Nordic Seven, right? And these are a defense pack. Look, when you saw, what's the name of the prime minister the prime minister of the Denmark, Netherlands, Denmark. What's her name? I can't think of her name. But anyway, when she was sitting there asking Carney, like, will you commit to defending, the Arctic nations? And basically Carney had to find the most political way to say yes, to not just get a Trump tirade, right? But basically Carney has said, yes, we're going to commit troops to defending the Arctic, because they know, like, the Americans could pick us off one at a time. There's no doubt about that. But they can't pick us all off. And Canada has got the most capability out of all these countries, resources wise. And what we're doing is Arctic partnerships. So, like, I was looking at the 212 CE sub last night, which the Finns have got that on order. The Swedes are building their own thing, but Norway, I think, has got, Norway and Sweden, I think, are going to go with the A-26. Germany is probably the 214, the 212 series submarines is probably the most widely distributed non-Russian submarine out there, right? And it offers so much in partnerships, and the idea of it's Arctic capable, it's Arctic ready. This is the only thing about the Caisson 3 that I don't know for Canada. I love that stuff. I think we should get like the 212 CEs, and then another maybe 3 or maybe even another 12 Caisson 3s. Put the Caisson 3s in the Atlantic and the Pacific, right, where it's not completely Arctic waters. Now, mind you, they're saying the Caisson 3 can do because they're going to have to make it Arctic capable. It's definitely going to be good in the South China Sea and whatever, but it's going to have to be in the Arctic and Antarctic. Look, Canada, you might not realize this. Trump always saying how we're so useless and everything. Like our Harry DeWolf class patrol boats, they're not a true warship, but they're the only ship that can go in the Arctic and then fuel up in the Arctic and go to Antarctica, spend a couple of months there and come back. Right? That's what we've been doing with these ships. The U.S. does not have this capability. The U.S. is training on those ships. We do cross training and stuff like that. And again, like Trump makes it sound as if we got nothing. Look, if Trump sends warships up in the Arctic, okay, and he's threatened Canada, saying that if the Canadian Navy, does anything about us going through the Northwest Passage, they're going to have a bad day. You're basically saying you're going to destroy our ships. And they could, right? But if there's a Halifax frigate in that basically going through the Northwest Passage, you're really saying, is our warship going to be able to fire our missiles fast enough before they can respond to us? The answer is no. The Halifax frigate is every bit as dangerous as an Ollieburg. It might have some advantages to the Ollieburg, but if we fire our missiles and you fire, both ships are going to the bottom. This is the problem with warships once you get them into narrow straits like that. And it's not super narrow, but it's like, it's maybe a little bit wider than the Strait of Hormuz, or the Persian Gulf. But, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So no, this idea that the U.S. Navy is going to go through there with impunity, it's no. If there's that standoff, it'd be like watching two freaking like top sailors. You ever see the movie Master and Commander? Yeah, just a modern version of Master and Commander. Like it just both ships are just fucking. You got a Bofus 57 on that. Sure the 127 mil is a little bit more powerful, but within lethal range, like okay, the Bofus 57 makes it's going to shoot from one side of the hull to the other. You're going to have an exit wound on it. And just the shrapnel and the fire, like everybody dies. Everybody dies. And why? Because fucktard wants to be the tough guy. He wants to steal land and territory. It is not an international waterway. The Persian Gulf is an international waterway because you have different countries on both sides of it. You know what I mean? That clearly goes right through Canadian territory. It's Canadian territory on both sides. If that's an international waterway, it means the entire Arctic is an international waterway. No, it's not. So Carney's getting ahead of that. And whenever our new destroyer comes in, or I don't know if they're going to call it a frigate, the River class destroyer / frigate. It's that thing again. That's state of the art. You know what I mean? That's every bit as good as what the Americans are going to have. It might be 2 years before we see the first one completed. But that said, you still got submarines in there. And you got these electric quiet submarines in shallower waters, right? So we're going to have more of an advantage there. That's 18 Mark 48 torpedoes. Everybody knows now what a Mark 48 torpedo can do with a single shot on a stern of an Iranian corvette, right? Or a frigate. Or was it a corvette? Whatever got sunk. One of those right in dead center of an Ollieburg, or 4 of those into an aircraft carrier. Goodbye, aircraft carrier. Now, what I'm thinking, though, is Trump is going to send, like, maybe not a carrier group up there, but like a couple of warships up there. And he's going to send them up at the wrong time, right? He's going to send them up, like, say, in early June or something like that, right? Just as the ice flows are coming back. And then we're going to see the Canadian Navy have to come, or the Danish Navy have to come to the fucking rescue of a fucking American warship that's stuck in the ice. Like, that's going to be fucking funny to watch. Like, it's going to be humiliating, but it'll be funny. Because it's like, you got to know, like the Danes are like, you can't just fucking run through the Arctic, top speed at 40 knots. You can't do that. You're going to hit something. Like, you see the iceberg, that iceberg, the bottom of it could be under your boat 2 miles away. like these are gigantic, the problem with the climate change people is they told everybody, oh, the Arctic is melting, the Arctic. Okay, Arctic is melting means you get up there 2 weeks earlier and you can stay 2 weeks later in the season. That's all it means. It means it's like a degree and a half to maybe 4 degrees warmer. So instead of minus 70 with the wind chill, you've got minus 66. I mean, that's what it's telling you. It means in the summertime, you might hit plus 24, plus 30 once in the summer. Instead of, plus 26. Like that's what it's telling you. Like the Arctic is melting. Like, guys, it's not melting. Every year there's ships that try to put freighters through during the fucking summer, and they get stuck in the ice up there. We've had to rescue Chinese frigates. The Finns were the first ones to make it through the Northwest Passage commercially, but they had a fucking freighter that could do it, right? And they had a bitch of a time doing it. So this idea that everybody's just like the Chinese are going to be zipping through there, no. Like the ice flows will crush a hull so fast. Even icebreakers have limitations. Like right now, there's not a single icebreaker that's really going to be moving around farther. They'll keep the current circulating, but that's about it. Do a little research on icebreakers. You'll see what I mean. Like it's like July and there's like fucking huge icebreakers. Ask the Newfies. Like the spring thaw. It's like, okay, yeah, they like I have my Newfie Mike, one of my old roommates. He said, yeah, I used to get the old Rosa, go out there in the dory, fucking him and his buddies would be bringing back enough ice, almost enough to sink the dory for their beer, right? They're knocking it off the icebergs, right? He said they got on one iceberg one time. It was a huge one. They just got the ice. They just got rolling. The fucking thing started to go. It started to, yeah. He says, yeah, it fucking took the boat up. Like, yeah. And he goes, that one was probably the size of a fucking 2-story building. And he says there's some that are like they're skyscrapers. Like what I mean. Like you're not just you ram that thing in the middle of the fucking Arctic, and you have to understand it's not like you can do dead reckoning easily in the Arctic. Why? Because your compass doesn't work. Once you get past the 50th parallel, your compass starts to waver, and then when you get to the 54th parallel, it's like that. When you're north of 60, the fucking thing's spinning like a top. You can't just navigate through the Arctic like look. There's so much I don't know about the Arctic, but I at least know that much. I know enough to be dangerous. And I'm saying if you think you're just going to go right through the Northwest Passage, you're going to run aground, you're going to hit a shoal, you're going to smack into an ice if you do not know what you're doing. And again, Canada knows how to do this. Finland knows how to do this. Sweden knows how to do this. Iceland knows how to do this because we're northern. We've been up there for so long. The people in Alaska, many of them probably know how to do this because there is icebreakers in Alaska. The Chinese don't know how to do this. The Russians know how to do this, right? I said the Finns, I'm sure. But you get the idea. Even the British have an idea. They're close enough, right? Arctic Circle is a different thing. So the other places, again, around the Great Lakes, that's where Trump is talking about seizing territory. He wants to seize our side, because the Gordie Howe Bridge, the American side of the bridge is actually Canadian territory. It's just where the border goes. You know what I mean? So it's like he wants to seize that, right? So we're already seeing that kick up. So he's already planning to go to have multiple wars. He's going to suspend the Constitution. This is why, what you call it? And J.D. Vance is going to be no better. He's not as threatening to Canada, but he's also, using Trump talking points. When J.D. Vance, is not stupid. He knows Canada is not taking advantage of the United States at all. And even he's doing it. So he's one of these Zionist evangelical fucktards too, right? You might say the odd clever thing, but in general, no. If he's parroting Trump, I get it. You're trying to keep your job, whatever. But there's just some places you just don't go. They just let sleeping dogs lie, and so he's going to be in on it too, right? But no, seizing territory from Canada, just saying, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, we're already mobilizing. A lot of people, it's light mobilization, but it is mobilizing. Look, you don't believe we're mobilizing. Canada can't do anything, whatever. 2 F-18s in the air escorting an airliner like that. Where did those F-18s came from? Laval? Probably. That was a pretty quick response. That means our guys are sitting there ready. Okay, they might not be a big force, but you will hear this time and time again. It starts in World War I. Don't fuck with the Canadians at war. Yeah, don't make the kind, happy, polite people mad. Don't get us into like there's one thing that war's horrible, everything like that. But one thing that Canadians glee at when it does come to war, the thing that we love the most about being homicidal maniacs and fucking human rights violators, trench raids. We fucking love trench raids. The Germans hated us for this twice. They're like, these fuckers are evil. Why? Because we don't come in and just throw some hand grenades and clear the trench. No. We come in with a fucking kitchen knife with jags in it. We come in with a club with barbed wire and razors in it and nails. Why? And we start with your kneecaps, and then we hit you in the chest, and we bash you in the cheek just to stun you a bit so we can keep you alive so we can take at least 5 minutes to kill you. We're going to disembowel you with a fucking trench club. Why? Because we're fucking evil. We're nice. We're nice until we're not nice. It's like, okay, we're Mr. Canada here. We're going to be really nice. And, hey guys, guess what? Looks like we're not going to, we have to go to war. I guess we're going to have to say sorry after, but looks like we're going to have to be not so nice and so polite and kind. Sorry about that, eh? But here's my trench club. Like, who fucking invents a trench club? Right? Again, biggest human rights violators across the board overall, Canada. We still hold that record. All from World War I, Yeah. But you say, yeah, but the World War I Canadian doesn't exist. Yes, he does. You don't see them on TV. Why? Because progressive lefty stuff. You get out into rural Canada, you'll find out who the mean guys are. You'll find out who's going to defend the land. You're going to find out True North strong. You're going to meet those guys. Those guys, they don't go for participation awards. They go to win, right? They fight dirty. They don't fight fair, and they've always done more with less, right? It's historic. So now bring in modern weaponry. Do you think the Ukrainian drone pilots, that Canada's training with, everybody's training with them. I get all the forces are training with them. You don't think they're not going to take that to another level? You really think, like the anti-tank weapons we have won't kill your tanks? That is going to be the biggest slaughter fest is through the rock shield. And then artillery, mortars. Canadians are one of the best mortar and artillery guys by no other metric on the planet. They are just the best. Recorded time and time again in battle. The largest artillery barrage in battle in human history is 1,050 guns opening morning, guns of August of World War I. That was us. And we've had these artillery brigades for, maybe not brigade strength anymore, but again, we've honed that in. Like radio-guided artillery was a Canadian invention, right? Meaning you fire the first shell, you track it. And this was like World War One. You track it, and then really in World War II, you track it, and it's like, okay, it landed there. Okay, correct this much. That's how they did it. Now it's like it's your first shot, cold bore shot, hits the pickle barrel. There's that. Again, it's the way war is fought now. It's a drone cruise missile war. Now Canada is lacking in cruise missiles and mobile artillery big time. Okay, but light stuff we have, and the biggest advantage we have is the same as the Ukrainians. The only difference is we have trees. Like the Canadian rock shield is pretty much impassable once it's locked down. Like by the time you get your guys past, you've lost 100,000 guys, right? The prairies, everybody, we're just going to go through the prairies. Well, depending on where you go through the prairies, even that, like, it's not the cakewalk you think. You might take a couple of border towns, but that's it. But you have to understand the border towns on the other side are probably going to get artillery barraged. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to move the line back. So Trump might go for Cuba next. I think he's kind of lost interest in Greenland for now, but he still has the hate on for us. I know I keep going on about it, and I know most of my audience is probably American. They don't like to hear this, but it's true. Your guy's about to start a war with a neighboring country that's been, sorry. What are you doing? Hey, what are you doing over there? Sorry, guys. Anyway, guess who's here? No idea how he got in, but what are you doing? Yeah, I'm talking to you. Get off my bike. Hey, Marvin, where are you going? Little booger. Hang on. Anyway, I guess I was ranting now anyway, so I think I covered everything for now. But but keep an eye on that because like he's saber rattling with it. Carney is playing very, hand close to the chest. Like, why do you think all of a sudden we're going to be basically... where'd you go? Marvin, get back here. Anyway. Or get out of my house. There we go. I'm not sure. Anyways, like, why do you think we're now going to be manufacturing our own ordnance? Because we know that we can't rely on the United States. If it wasn't a threat, this is what my speculation is that we probably have U.S. personnel, generals, guys like that, giving us the heads up that there's a war plan for us. Trump can't keep his mouth shut, right? So that's why, it's kind of like, I'm just going to make the threats, and say, we're going to do it, we're not going to do it, we're going to do it, we're not going to do it. And at first, everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's just Trump trolling. But it's not. He's not trolling. Look, he's attacked Venezuela. He's attacked Iran, obviously. And then, of course, Cuba, is kind of under, it is a form of war, basically under blockade. That's sort of like an attack, right? And with the caveat of a friendly takeover, right? And you have to understand, like, these friendly takeovers are for Israel. Still, like, every war on the planet pretty much is for Israel. And I know that sounds like conspiracy theory until you start tracking the players. And then it's like, okay, the Venezuelan oil is going to Israel and a couple of other places, but anywhere but the United States. So the American military basically went in, stole Maduro, okay, stole the oil, and took the oil and is sending it to the war effort that was about to start in Iran. That's how they were going to keep the Israelis in fuel, is we'll just take the oil from Saudi Arabia, or from Venezuela, which would cut off Cuba. That would in turn cut off China, and then it would, back the war effort for the Israelis while their shit gets blown up, and the Saudis would refine it, and whoever would refine it, right? But what they didn't factor in is that Iran was going to hit everybody in the process. Like they had no clue. You could tell they had no clue that Iran was going to go after everybody that was why? And again, people say, why are they hitting everybody else? Well, I explained it to them. I said, well, Israel knew it was going to get hit in retaliation. There's no doubt about that. America knew it. Everybody knew it. That whatever, because the last time that's what happened, right? But people didn't pick up. Also, the last time Jordan took a couple of hits in the 12-day war. Oh, geez, Marvin, what are you doing? Knocking a board over or something out there. In the 12-day war, yes, Jordan got hit a couple of times on some of their bases because there was a U.S. and Israeli assets that were being launched from there, and that was the first sign that the Iranians were going to hit anything that supports the U.S. and Israel, right? Because that's how you stop the war, is you hit the assets. Like the idea, well, yeah, that's a neutral country. Yeah, but you're launching, it's not a neutral country if the fighter jets, the bombers, and the drones and all that shit are coming from that country in support of your war. Well, that makes them a part of the war too, right? And again, I don't know what the Gulf states are going to do. I get a lot of them are talking about a coalition to, again, get a regional war and fight Iran, right? But what are they going to fight with? You know what I mean? Like the air bases that they were going to launch their attacks from, that the U.S. is using. Well, guess what? That's who the Qataris and the U.S., the UAE and Kuwait, and that's where they were going to launch their attacks from on Iran. And again, they're losing aircraft too that are, technically in defensive mode, trying to shoot down drones and not in on the strikes. And that was, I guess, was the plan. Okay, well, you guys just go after the stuff that you can shoot down, and we'll do the strikes with our aircraft or whatever, keep you out of it. But you're not out of it because you're using the same airbase. So if the Saudis tell America, get out, or the Kuwaitis or whatever, and Qatar, they say, okay, that's it. We're done. We're out of this war. We're going to make a peace deal with Iran and fuck off. See you later. Right? Number one, America won't allow it. Because they want, like Israel wants everybody else to fight its war, right? If they can get, like I say, the MSN 200 thing, arm up the Kuwaitis, arm up all that, and they did, to fight Iran for them, right? And it's not happening. It's not going to happen. Because by the time the Gulf states make the decision to say, okay, we're in on this war and we're going to take out Iran, they're not going to have anything left to fight with. Right, so that's what they're not stupid. They know this. They're like, well, Iran is not giving them an option here. Like Trump is, again, every day for the past week, he's been telling Iran to basically surrender, come to the table, blah blah blah, and Iran has said no. What are you going to do about it? You're already hitting us. What you're going to hit us more? We'll hit you back. And again, every time they do something, they kill one of their guys, you get hit twice as hard. You get hit 10 times harder. You hit our oil refinery, The Iranians say, okay, you can do that. We just, now it's going to take you 5 years to rebuild your. You got to think of the money that's being lost here. Again, think of all these mob bosses that are losing money in the stock market. Yeah, again, Trump's days are numbered. I don't think he survives the end of the year. I'm not making any threats, but I'm like, just how do you not see it? If you're an intelligence officer and you're listening to this, okay, and you're like, okay, this guy, what does he know? I'm an internet guy, the same as anybody. But just think of the money. Just one thing. Just think of the money that's being lost. You took out airports, train stations, intelligence hubs, fucking AI data centers, oil, fertilizer, gas, shipping, docks. like think of all the motels, think of all the infrastructure that's been destroyed in the Gulf states. How much, we're probably talking $500 billion worth of assets destroyed by now. Yes, they'll only add up the planes and the vehicles and stuff like that. But you got it, those hangars, just the hangars for the airplanes. They're probably $1 billion a piece, or a few millions. You know what I mean? 7 hangars. What do 7 fortified aircraft hangars cost? The radar stations. This goes on and on. Not to mention just the general loss of people going out and spending, going out for supper or whatever. All the people, all the commerce that is not being done. It's going to cripple these Gulf states, their economies. They're probably fucked for the next 30 years just to recover. Who's going to go back and work in these countries once they get out of there? You know what I mean? And they can't, they're having a hard time getting people out. That's why I say, okay, trains might not be the safest way. Do not go to Israel no matter what. But try to find a safe way out. The safest way out here, for anybody listening in the region, if you can get out through Qatar, get on a cruise ship and just say, just fucking get me out of here. It's a gamble. You might be able to get out. You might be able to go through Egypt. I think that's the route everybody, stay here, go through Egypt. Do not go near Yemen. Iraq, if you're a tourist an American tourist going through Iraq, that might be a bad idea. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So you might be able to get out. Okay. Oh, I see what the problem is. There we go. So you might be able to get out through here. Okay. Through Qatar. Cruise ship or something. Airliners, it seems like the airports are pretty much all, everybody I'm watching that, there's one lady, she's still there, a Japanese girl, she's still there. I think it's the 7th time they've canceled the flights on her. I think she needs to take a boat. You know what I mean? Give up. Yes, a cruise ship is going to bankrupt you, but fuck, man. You borrow money from family, get them wired in before the banks are completely down. Go to your embassy, say, hey, can you get me on a ferry? Whatever, get through here. Get into Egypt, stay out of Libya, get a ferry from there to Turkey, then you can maybe get home safely from there. You're not going to get out any other way. I really don't see anybody safely getting out any other way than that. Because, you're not going to get out through Syria. Jordan, well, you're right on Syria, so you can't do that. But you can get probably through the edge of Jordan here. Maybe get into again, if you can get to Cairo, you could probably take Cairo Airport because I don't think it's been hit yet. But you might have to live out in the desert, buy yourself a tent and lots of bottles of water or whatever. Because you're not getting out through the Gulf of Oman, the Iran's right there. So Oman is going to be the only way out. Do not go into the Persian Gulf. So you basically got to go to the backside of Saudi Arabia, maybe hitch a ferry over to Egypt. I mean, you can go south too. I would not go to Somalia. Sudan's pretty dangerous.
Egypt's your best bet. That's pretty dangerous, but Libya and Algeria are complete like suicide for Western tourists. South Sudan, no, not going there. Chad, Niger, Congo, stay away from there. Mali, yeah, Mali's not a good idea. Kenya, you might be okay, Kenya, but you got to go through Ethiopia or by Somalia. Stay away from Somalia. Do not go to Yemen. So Saudi Arabia, Egypt. Egypt's your way home. Egypt to Turkey or whatever, or Egypt to Greece. Uh, yeah. Cyprus is not really a safe option because it is being like airports are being targeted there by the Iranians. Like Egypt, see if you can get to Italy. Italy, you're safe. Greece, you're safe. You know, you're like once you're into the Europe mainland, you're okay. No Libya, no Tuscan, no Algeria. Morocco would be okay. You went Egypt, Morocco, Spain. Morocco is still dangerous for tourists, but not too bad. But Libya is still like I think General Haftar is still in control of that. So that's like ISIS territory, big time. Um, yeah, if you can get Saudi Arabia to Turkey or Saudi Arabia to Europe, if you can get a flight out, but again, like these airports are getting like they're losing airliners every day. So every time the airports get hit, right? So all right, so excuse me, I got to get other stuff done. So sorry about all the ranting and raving. So maybe that's what Marvin is coming in. And, again, guys, for those of you in the States, again, every time you hear me go off about Trump's invading of Canada, I am concerned about this. You know what I mean? And it's not an irrational concern. This man is showing that he's going to go to war with and like I said, the United States is about to go to war with about 40 to 45 different countries. So let's count them up. Okay, so if Trump is to do what he wants, you've now got Iran, Cuba, Venezuela is, like things are starting to kick up there, so that's 3. Then you've got the Nordic 7, which includes us. So you're at 10. And then will the rest of Europe jump in to save Greenland? There's 28. There you're at 38. Yeah, so 40, 45. And then Iraq and Afghanistan might, particularly Iraq and Turkey, could turn on the United States. And then Yemen. So you're at 40, 41, 43. So it's going to be about 40. And then South America, right? You could see... Mexico and a few other South American countries come to the aid of Cuba. Yeah, that easy 45 countries that Trump is about to have you in a war. And the Americans can't survive that. It's not the isolation that'll get you; it's the counter retaliation. Mexico, the Mexicans probably wouldn't be able to push far into the states, but they might, they might take Southern California and stuff. Again, you got to consider like a multicultural society is going to have loyalists, right? You don't need a lot. Again, if 10 drone operators from the Ukraine can stop 1,500 British and Finnish forces with drones in an exercise, could you imagine what 10,000 Mexican rebels or Cuban rebels, what drones can do? Maybe that's what you're seeing with these drones flying around the, again, the B-52 bombers. And targeting Hegseths and Mark, like they're probably going to do. The Iranians are probably going to do a decapitation strike in the United States, right, on United States soil, because that's how you stop the war, right? But I think what they're doing is waiting till first get Trump to get a whole bunch of Americans killed in, that you can't deny. Like if you can kill 2,200 to 5,000. Guys before they even make it to the island, Carg Island, right? The U.S. veterans will probably take out Trump. You know what I mean? I'm not asking for it. I'm just saying this is what's going to happen, right? And then it won't create the civil war you think, but it will create the beginning of the hunting of the world elites because they've done this all to us. Like the common man on the street in Iran, in New York City, in Ottawa, in Tokyo. They don't care about war. They just want to, live happy, right? It's only these neocon fucktards and these Israeli neocon Zionists and these evangelical Zionists. They are not Christians. They might think they're Christians. They are not Christians. They are Zionists. These are only people that want death and destruction than Muslims, terrorists, and whatever, But the thing is that nobody else wants that. And if if it was about the will of the people, it'd be a peaceful planet. But because of these bankster Davos crowd, stakeholder capitalists, these Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 people, these billionaire class, the Zionist class, these Jewish oligarchs, they are the ones that want the war, not the little people. And yes, they can use hate speech laws to shut guys like me up, but it's not going to matter because the people notice. The emperor has no clothes. And the more they get us into the wars, like, look, the Cuban people are not happy about Trump's liberation. The Venezuelan people, the majority of them are not happy about Trump's, liberation. Yes, you'll see the propaganda of the Iranians that are, in Canada and all that. Yeah, Rebel News will do that because they hate Iran, right? So you'll find sympathizers, sure, but the majority of Iranians are united in Iran. They might not like their government. I don't think there's anybody on the planet that likes their government. You know what I mean? But they don't want to be bombed. They don't want 16,000 Hummus trucks blown up. You know what I mean? And again, just look at what they're hitting. Just look at what they're hitting and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that the majority of the drone strikes and F-35 strikes or whatever are hitting valuable war-ending targets. They're not even hitting fucking fuel trucks. You know what I mean? Like they're hitting just your regular trucks. Yeah, the odd rocket launcher, maybe a couple of those. A few, they're decoys here, there. Like I bet you half those drones those Shahed drones that you see out there, they're probably not even real. You know what I mean? They're probably decoys. Why? Because one of Iran's strategies is very clear. Let's burn up their stockpiles. That's what I would do. Yeah, look, this is they've been doing this since World War I. Decoys are like a big thing in war. It's all over the Ukraine. Like all the S-300s that got destroyed. When you destroy more S-300s in the Ukraine than Russia's built, it tells you you're hitting a lot of decoys, right? But it's hard to tell. These things look fucking realistic from 20,000 feet. You know what I mean? That's the thing, right? But anyway, we'll see what happens. But guys, it's going to get really messy. So you can hate me as much as you want, but please, please, please keep your head on a swivel and prepare. Don't be scared. Just prepare. Get out there and enjoy. Later today, after supper, my nephew and I and my other family members, we're going to play a game, a board game. Do stuff like that. Don't just spend all your time obsessing about following all the doom and destruction. It's not healthy for you, number one. Number two, there's not much you can really do about it. Sit back and bitch about it like me. Have fun with that. Read a book. Go somewhere. Go visit friends, family. Because, guys, do things while you can. Because we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring and what kind of chaos these fucking animals are going to unleash on us, right? They're all in on it. Every single politician is kind of in on it. It's just different levels. So Carney's not as high on the rung as Trump is, right? Trump is the king dog, right? And Macron is somewhere in the middle. He wants the war, but he can't fight the war. Starmer's higher on the rung than, Carney is. But because of funding hate speech laws and pronouns and stuff like that, and they've got one warship functioning. maybe that's the saving grace for the British, right? Why drag you into a war you don't want, right? Nobody wants this. Nobody wanted this, and Trump saying that we're going to get out of NATO now because you guys aren't reliable. It's nobody's looking at this that's sane and rational and saying, okay, yes, if Trump is, the Americans are upset with us because we won't back them in another fake fucking forever regime change war. then we're out. You know, like NATO, everyone's like, if the Americans get out of NATO, that's it. NATO's done. No, it's not. It is not done. Look, the Arabs are talking about an Arab coalition. Canada's and the northern Arctic region nations are talking about and acting on Arctic defense and partnership, right? So, look, NORAD made sense for Canada. NATO doesn't. UN peacekeeping doesn't make sense for Canada. It doesn't. It's good PR, but it's gets a lot of our guys killed for nothing. If people want to kill each other, trying to play referee in between people who want to kill each other is kind of a bad spot to be sitting in. We learned that in Sarajevo. We learned that in, all through Bosnia. We learned that through Somalia. Like, again, Canada, like, why were we in fucking Somalia? Sure, we were going after piracy and shit like that, but like there was no reason to put boots on the ground in Somalia. Mali, we shouldn't be there. Oh, but the women and children, it's always about the women and children. How about we just leave it alone? I get it, it's bad, people are going to suffer and die, but it's their conflict, not ours. Ukraine, yeah, well, we're all in on the Ukraine. Well, because we got a huge Ukrainian population here. No offense to the Ukraine, I admire the Ukrainians' will to fight. Again, if they're killing the Russians around 1-1 at this stage of the game, the war will come to an end fairly soon because neither side will be able to just participate, right? But we're fighting this war because of Israel. The Ukrainians are fighting the war because Russia didn't just invade over nothing. It's well documented. It's been well, again, it doesn't mean I agree with Russia's invasion. What it means is that who didn't see it coming, right? Promising the Ukrainians that they were going to be a part of NATO and they're going to be a part of the EU and the Schengen zone and whatever. And, free travel to the EU and all that. All you had to do was overthrow your government. We'll let the Israeli Mossad help you with the United States. Again, all the people that are calling for the wars now, like your Lindsey Graham's, he was in on that. Him, John McCain, the Clintons, Obama, that whole administration, the same administration that is bankrolling the Trump administration is the same ones that have overthrown the Ukraine. Use the Ukraine to basically fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. It's well documented, and none of it needed to happen. None of it. So anyway, that's where we're at. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Be safe. Don't keep any more. I don't give financial advice because, legal reasons, right? But let common sense prevail. Don't keep any more money in the bank than you're willing to lose. Maybe turn some of that money into stuff that you can use. Remember, things are about to become unobtainium, meaning doesn't matter how much money you have in your account. If it's not there, if it's gotten blown up, you can't, if your food supply got blown up, you can't eat it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how much money you got. Again, you're going to see a lot of rich people selling their kingdom for a hamburger sandwich. Going to be very scary times. I think seeds are worth more than gold. I think knowledge of permaculture is worth more. It's the most survival skill you could do. Anything that can lead you to a homestead, right? Not everybody's going to have the property to do that, but you can still can things. You can still get oxygen absorbers, stockpile stuff, like in jars. Just keep it safe and dry. You put an oxygen absorber in, some cornmeal like this. There's one in there, believe it or not. That's good for 25 years. You know what I mean? Same with the rice and stuff like that. And stockpile. But don't just hold on to stuff. Make sure that when you buy stuff that you cycle it, right? So buy stuff you like. Just stock up on it. I know groceries are expensive, but trust me, in 3 weeks, look, we've seen gas already go up 30 cents. It's about 10 cents a week, going up 10 cents a week. Another 6 weeks of this, every economy in the world is broken. An extra $1 per gallon. Like I think they're over $6 a gallon in the States. We'd be at almost $8 a gallon, $10 a gallon, whatever we're at. You know what I mean? It's just this is what they're doing to us, and they're doing it on purpose. It's a part of the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 stuff, and the Greater Israel Project stuff, and all that. They want to depopulate the planet. They're about to do it. The starvation, spring starvation in Africa, is where the wave is going to start, right? Then it's going to go all throughout the Middle East, and then you're going to start to see it in Asia. Then you're going to start to see people starving to death in the United States, even here in Canada. The food banks are about to be completely raptured, especially with like all these Indians that go in there. They're working and they're just going in there, taking. They go to this one, they go to that one. They get basically just go take the food from people who need it the most, just because they're cheap, right? It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I know they're not all like that, but. Yeah, that's disgusting. You should get the fuck out of my country if you're doing that. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. So, other than that, I'm going to, I guess, wait for Marvin to come back. Maybe he can clean up some of the mess he made. Tends to do that. Anyway, all right, there we go.